Yeah. Now with it.
Thank you. Here we can get started and just do some of the more cursory things. And then hopefully Leslie will be here by that stage. Just make some quick notes.
My favorite was Dorothy Hertz recorded it on her phone. And then would just play the recording instead of reading the intro to Zoom meetings that we had to read for the first couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
I'd lose mine before I ever need it.
You can never
Megan, I'd
find
be
it.
like, Megan, where's?
Where's
And
the
then-
script? And then it
Yeah.
got shortened and some people didn't realize it and they were still reading the old one and
Right.
it was. Oh, the good old.
Yeah. I used to leave it on my desktop, but it was always there. Always find it. Oh. All right, thanks, everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Economic Development Commission meeting for today, October 28th. Welcome, Leslie. Perfect timing. I just wanted to, we haven't even really touched base yet. I think we could do some of the more perfunctory stuff, so take a few moments to settle in. Anyways, welcome, everyone. We have a few people online as well, too, so most of our votes today are going to be by order of the roll call vote. I'd like to at least call the meeting to order, establish that there was a quorum at this stage. Yeah, let's just start with them. So establishing a quorum. So just say aye if you're here, of course. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Wendy?
Hi.
Brooke?
Hi.
Christina?
Hi.
Online, we have Bert Johnson,
Aye.
Abby D. Molina. Maybe.
She double muted. Oh, yeah. Oh,
I don't know if you can double mute, but Joe Top,
like that. Save me that thing. See it?
what's a phone thing? That's all.
Oh, is it? Oh,
That's all.
okay.
Just tell me she's on her phone. There's no video.
Oh, is that what that means?
Yep.
Abby, we'll give you one more try. We'll just kind of keep calling on it from time to time. All right, so you have an agenda before you, and I would love a motion to approve said agenda. So moved. Second, okay. And then I'll introduce staff afterwards as well, too, if you're not doing that. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Wendy?
Hi.
Brooke?
Hi.
Christina?
Hi.
Joe? Talking?
Aye.
Bert Johnson?
Aye.
And Abby is off the call at the moment. So just in the establishment of who's here as well too, just say aye afterwards. Mike Burns,
Present.
Megan Trudell,
Here.
Leslie Woodson Snell.
Here.
Mike, you have one or two people that you may just want to quickly make us aware of, please.
Sure, I'll let them introduce themselves. We have two members from Mass DOT's Office of Transportation Planning. So Miranda, do you want to go first?
Hi, I'm Miranda Briseno. I'm a new-ish liaison, but I've been in the MPO activities group at MassDOT in the Office of Transportation Planning for about 2 years now. I'm taking over from Raisa Kwame, who left about a month or so ago. And yeah, I'm joined by my colleague, Chris.
Great, welcome on board.
Hi, thanks, Miranda, and good afternoon/evening, everyone. I'm Chris Clem, also MassDOT's Office of Transportation Planning in the MPO activities team.
Great, thank you for being here. We'll be calling on you in a few minutes. Is there any public comment out there for items not on the agenda? Nothing you have on your mind. Okay, we'll move on at this point. You have minutes from our September 23rd meeting. And if there's no errors, omissions, or changes that need to take place, I'd love someone to make a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second, motion's made and seconded at this point. Nat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Wendy.
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Joe Toppen,
Aye.
Bert,
Aye.
and no Abby still, right?
I
There she is.
Oh, there you are.
I said I. Yeah, I heard
Good,
you.
no, that's great. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm
Fantastic.
here.
I think that's everyone. Okay, so let's talk about appointments for a few minutes. There are three key areas that we need to do appointments for a commission person. One is a new one that just recently came up, and that is the Seasonal Communities Advisory Council. So Megan or Leslie, do one of you want to
I'll
kind of
talk
give
about
the overview of that one?
Yep, so the Seasonal Communities Advisory Council was recently included in legislation that was approved by the legislature. And Nantucket was designated as a seasonal community. Our regional planning agency needs to appoint a representative to be on the council. Other regional planning agencies have recommended that a staff person be the representative. I know that Megan Trudell, who's involved in a lot of affordable housing discussions on island, is interested in doing that. If the commission wants to appoint her. Just so you all know what the council does, this was in your packet, but I'll just run through it real quick. The council will provide advice and recommendations to the executive office regarding policies or programs necessary to serve the distinct needs of seasonal communities. And then as a seasonal community, Nantucket will be able to acquire and develop housing units with preference for housing seasonal community public employees, expend funds for comprehensive housing needs assessments, adopt ordinances or bylaws to permit undersized lots to be used for the creation of attainable housing, adopt bylaws to allow smaller housing units than may otherwise be allowed. So there's a lot in there. I think it's really important that we have someone representing our regional planning agency, the NPDC.
Anyone have any questions about the session or
We
anything?
could have a meeting on this.
Sure.
Does this designee need to be a staff member or a member of the MPDC?
The exact legislation, if I could find the wording. Let's see. One person to represent each regional planning agency. So that's what it says.
So that can
Sounds
be,
vague.
That's
that's a vague, yeah, that's a vague word.
But anyways, you also have interest from Megan who'd like to be on there as
Oh,
well.
I know,
too, and
but
that's-
this is the first time we've ever talked about this. Like, this is like day one on the job. And I think that we need to understand, like to Dave's question, I have other questions about this.
Well, this is your time.
This is really important for someone that understands zoning locally,
Mhm.
ground cover, all the existing bylaws that we already do have that we've changed to help housing and to help whatever stuff we're talking about now, like the ground cover bonus thing for affordability or attainability for existing lots that already have dwellings, the height, some of the stuff that we ran into the other night with the real lot subdivision, like there's a lot to unpack that it's, and the part that I like about it is it helps facilitate some of this stuff, like the thing with the 2/3 majority. This is like right out of that playbook, which I still don't think everybody understands at town meeting, okay? So I think what Dave is asking, I'll try to ask it a different way. Is there a way, we need more involvement than just you? Like what is this gonna be as far as like, is this for the state? Or is it gonna be like 5 or 6 people in Nantucket on the committee for here? Like, that's what I'm asking.
It's,
Is that, you know what I mean? Like, is
so it's the
this a
commission's
commission from the
representative
state?
to the state, and
Okay,
they're gonna help develop these regulations
Okay.
and guidelines.
all right.
Okay,
Okay, so, sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting. I'm
That's
just
okay.
trying to wrap my head around what this actually is. So now that helps me figure out.
Yeah.
So input from like Tucker, from Christie, from people that are involved in this in their day job all the time. But to you, for
Right.
the menu of stuff, like there's just a lot going on. So this brings them more into the discussion of all the things that we're trying to do.
So this would give us a local representative, well, a regional local representative on this committee that's going to make recommendations to the executive office. Their name always changes.
Housing and livable communities.
Yes.
UHLC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
And
abbreviation.
you have to know that to get appointed.
Oh, there's a scoring mechanism too, huh?
Okay.
Did, Tucker, give me one sec. Did anyone else have questions?
Not really a question, it's sort of a follow-up to Dave. And I guess I'll wait till the point where we discuss what other candidates there might be. Area, because I have another candidate I would like us all to think about. Or I can.
It's probably worth bringing it up now,
Okay,
because I don't.
Yep.
I view this as a short conversation with that, so let's get everything
I'll try to
up.
be sure.
Let's get everything up on the document.
Well, so, some of the background to this. Tucker Holland was actually a part of the initiative to even create this regional thing in the first place, I think with his counterpart on the Vineyard. So, with Tucker, I think, first of all, he was a part of getting it up here, but he's also been very successful in, integrating us much more with the state and the region. A big example of that was he recently brought Secretary Augustus, the housing secretary, over to the island for his very first visit to Nantucket. And it was a highly successful one. The guy is, or she's quoting us very often now at the State House.
Mhm.
And that kind of relationship that Tucker has developed alongside his relationships that he has with our local organizations, I think makes him an ideal candidate to represent us on this. He has a huge amount of experience at the local level on housing and at the state level, and I think deserves to be considered alongside Nick.
No, I was just gonna clarify that, this seasonal communities designation came out of the Affordable Homes Act. And it was part of an advocacy group that, Tucker was involved in, but, for the Cape and Islands, basically to finally get recognition that our housing issues are different from seasonal communities' housing issues are different from other places because of, and the criteria basically is the percentage of homes that are not occupied year round. And when you reach a threshold, you're automatically, and then other communities can seek to be involved. So there may be, so the Cape and Islands sort of, we're automatically in because it's obvious that that's what we are. But there's some communities out in Western Massachusetts that are perhaps not as obvious as seasonal communities than we are. And so this is a huge, huge leap forward for us. The state's recognizing that additional tools in our toolbox that aren't needed or wanted in communities that don't have our issues are necessary. And this commission, this group is going to put the flesh on the bones of the framework for this. And so building out really the details. And I'm listening to John's comments about Tucker's background, and I'm listening to what Nat said about, zoning expertise, being the two elements that we need, but we can only appoint one person. And so how do we choose it's Megan's done a ton of work in affordable housing and on the zoning side, and she's been involved. And so I mean,
Can I just say something?
yeah,
Through the chair.
I mean, sorry, I'm not the chair.
That's okay.
Sorry, I forgot for a second.
Okay. That's okay. No problem.
Okay.
That's okay. Hang on just.
My apologies, Mr. Chair.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I know we're passionate at times and things just kind of flow along. Yeah, go ahead, Tucker, and then Christie's got her hand up too.
Let's just, yeah.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, I just want to try to save you guys a little bit of time here. So, I mean, I'm flattered by John, thinking that, I might be able to help with this, which I would be happy to. I think Megan could do a terrific job representing Nantucket. I'm here because I just wanted to frankly make sure that this wasn't just a,
Yeah.
hey, let's fill this seat.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
extremely
Perfect.
important.
Yeah.
And Megan and Christy and I and others, communicate regularly. Laura Silver from the Vineyard will be their representative from their regional planning agency. So, I mean, I feel very good about Megan. I just want to make sure that this was
Yeah.
taken seriously.
Yeah.
This is a
No,
big
perfect.
opportunity.
Right. Mr. Chair, real quick.
Let me go to Christie.
I was gonna say,
Let me go to Christie and then I'll
Okay,
come to you.
okay.
Thank you. Christie, go ahead.
You have to let it
Be an attendee, you may have to.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I'm sitting here like, do, come on, Christy.
Oh.
You need to bring her.
There we go. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you. There we go.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to kind of reiterate what everybody's been saying and Tucker said about the importance of this role. And while it's really important to have zoning, there's a lot of aspects of the seasonal communities designation. I just want to make sure that whoever is appointed kind of has regular conversations with the housing department, especially around municipal employee housing. And making sure that we're involved in that conversation. But really excited that Nantucket has a voice on this commission because it's going to really bring new tools to our toolbox. And just wanted to thank whoever kind of got that going, especially Tucker and Laura Silber. And just wanted to reiterate that, my office will be there to support whoever the representative is. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, she just said exactly what, almost to the word that I was gonna say. Now that we've got this out on the table between Tucker and just all of us, this is, again, John, this is like our first time we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And we kind of teetered around it the other night, but that was not the right time. This is, I think I see this as a working group of internal people, but there can only be one appointee.
Right.
So that creates almost a forced internal, I don't want to say committee, but like just to work together to figure out. If they find something out, you gotta tell her, she's the first.
Yeah.
Or she's gotta tell you guys what the latest, whatever thing is. But this is part of some of the stuff that we've been talking about that we've never been able to implement. And this is like really good, because like, I always say, we're 10 years behind. This is making me feel like we're maybe 5. This is really this is good for us. And getting the explanations, Barry, just for one more thing. Having it coming from planning is a little bit more like where we can explain this stuff. At a meeting, whether it's a joint meeting with the select board, Tucker and Christie could be there, where we can talk about some of this stuff. So we're not, one board's talking about something and other people don't know what we're doing. This is a Nantucket issue. This isn't a planning board only or planning commission only or a select board only. This is everybody. So in HDC as well, in theory. So I think this is awesome. I'm really excited about this. And I don't know if we should continue this till the next meeting or we should finish it tonight because it's brand new. I have no problem finishing it tonight. I'm just saying it's brand new. So that's all. Yeah.
Can I just add something, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I think you want to appoint someone right away because they're working on these
Yes.
things. And I was just going to add that, there already is a group, our new representative, Tom Moakley, and the representative replacing Sarah Peak, Hadley Luddy. They're very interested to be part of the and kind of internal group that Nat was describing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I would agree. We need to get this done sooner than later because this came to our attention back on the very beginning of October. So I would suggest that this commission not, unless there's something germane or substantial that needs to be discussed, this point, I think we need to take the ability to deal with that tonight.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'd make a motion to appoint Megan Trudell in this
Okay.
position.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Discussion on the issue. Hearing none. Do a roll call vote at this point. Forgive me for not using your last names earlier. I'm just so used to dealing with all of you rather intimately. So I'm going to do it right now. John Kitchener. Aye. David Iverson. Aye. Mazzarelli. Aye. Nat Lowell.
Aye.
Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Christine McGelney.
Aye.
Joe Topham.
Aye.
Abby DiMolina.
Aye.
And Bert Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, there you go. It's unanimous vote by the board.
Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations.
Looking forward to it.
All right, no clapping, because there's other people who want to do it too. Always be fair to them. I'll do a Sarah Alger at this point. But thank you.
I'm clapping.
There you go. Okay. So we've got two other committees that we're trying to fill at this point. I know we're all busy people, but I will keep these on the agenda until such time that something does happen with them. So for the Contract Review Committee for Human Services at this point, is there anyone who would like an interest on being on that board? Go, yeah, okay.
And it has to be someone who's on the commission, right?
It should be someone on the commission. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So going once, going twice, we'll hold that till next month. Same thing with the Harbor Plan Update Committee. They're also looking for someone as well too. Is there any interest from any of the people on the board on this at all?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I could take that one, or Conservation Commission's coming into I wouldn't dare say a quiet time, but we're getting some things are gonna be finished here pretty soon, and the Harbor Plan Update Committee will couple well with that at this point.
Make a motion to appoint Mike Mazzarelli to the Harbor Plan Committee.
Sure. Second.
I'll second that before you change his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, really. We'll even evade the discussion. No, discussion on this. Hearing none, all those, I'm sorry, I have to do it again. John Kitchener.
Aye.
David Iverson.
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli. Matt Lowell.
Aye.
Eddie Hudson.
Aye.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Christina Jelemy.
Aye.
Bert Johnson.
Aye.
Joe Topham.
Aye.
Abby DiMolina.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
We appreciate
it.
Time will tell. Yes. Okay, so that brings us to the transportation discussion on the agenda at this point. You'll have two items. The first thing is the Mass DOT presentation. This is about federal performance measures for street conditions and reliability, PM2 and PM3. Mike, you're up on deck, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we do have staff here again from Mass DOT's Office of Transportation Planning to run through the two of the three performance measures that are used by federal statute to evaluate the progress of safety conditions, the actual condition of roadways and transit facilities as part of PM2s, and then the PM3s are related to reliability. And I think Chris is going to walk you through all of that. Mr. Chair, if it's all right, I was asked by Mass DOT if the MPDC would want to hear a presentation on these items. These are very relative to the National Highway System, which I felt was prudent because we have a second item on the agenda here related to whether we want to entertain adding some roadways to the NHS. So I thought this would be a good primer for understanding what PM2 and PM3 is. I know you have all in the past had your PM1 discussions on the safety performance measures, but I think it's a good education of it. If nothing else, like what is PM2 and 3 and what the those conditions are for. So with that, I'll hand it over to Chris. And Chris, I believe you're going to share your screen and run through the presentations for the two performance measures.
Yep. So I'm actually gonna pass off to Annabelle first to run through PM2. She's from our highway division.
Give me 1 second and I will share my screen.
Annabelle, do you want to introduce yourself too? I don't think we've had the pleasure.
Yeah,
yet.
I can. I'm Annabelle Shine and I'm with asset management at MassDOT Highway, and I'm just gonna run through a performance measure 2 because at asset management we do a lot of the reporting on pavement and bridge, which I'm gonna go through with you all here. So let me get this ready. All right, so I'm gonna go through our mid-performance period update for this year on the NHS condition. So the measures that we report on for PM2 for pavement are interstate pavement in good and poor condition, our non-interstate NHS in good and poor condition, and our bridge area, our NHS bridge area in good and poor condition. And this is, yeah, as I said, the midway point of our second performance period. This is just to give some context of what the regional distribution of interstate looks like across the state and the non-interstate. These are our per pavement metrics to date. So you can see period 1 and then period 2, which is where we're at. And as you can see, our midterm results are lagging the targets a bit. And we believe that this is due to the rising construction costs that are diminishing returns from program investment. And as a result, we've been evaluating program size and focusing on controlling the scope of planned projects. And none of these targets are going to change through the end of the next performance period. This is the regional distribution of NHS bridges across the state. And this is our bridge performance. The targets are also slightly lagging. We believe this is because we are not yet seeing the increased investment from the BIL and the Next Gen Bridge money that we've received. We've been doing a lot of investment in preservation projects recently, which are keeping our fair bridges fair. But we're expecting to see the investments to manifest in the next performance period and reduce that poor condition because we have several replacement projects coming up. And these targets are also going to stay the same through the end of the performance period. These are all the slides I have, but I'm happy to take any questions now if you have any.
Any questions from the commissioners so far? Yeah, go ahead. So Mike, do you want to pick up from here or let me know what's on the deck?
Sure. I think the next presentation Chris is going to run through is the PM3, which is the reliability of the system operations.
Yep. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Just give me 1 moment. Excuse me. Everybody seeing that presentation okay?
Yeah.
All right, great. So good evening again. I'm Chris Clem from MassDOT's Office of Transportation Planning. I'm going to present on PM3, our system performance measures for congestion, reliability, and emissions. And I'll begin with a little bit of background. So in 2016, the Federal Highway Administration passed a rule establishing 3 performance measures that state DOTs and MPOs must track. Those include PM1, focusing on improving safety, PM2, maintaining our pavement and bridge conditions. That's what Annabelle just presented on. And this one is PM3, it's sort of a catch-all for system reliability, focusing in on emissions and congestion. And as Annabelle also mentioned, we are at the mid-performance period of our second full 4-year performance period. And this performance period focuses on PM2 and PM3 measures. So the formal report was due to FHWA on October 1st, and MassDOT successfully submitted that report. And the only target adjustments that we changed were those in the non-single occupancy vehicle category. But that particular metric is specific to only the 3 UZAs that are triggered by FHWA's rules under these metrics. So those include Springfield, Worcester, and the Boston urbanized areas due to their population size, as well as the existence of an air quality attainment area. So going into a little bit more detail on the specific metrics under performance measure 3, we have 2 reliability measures, and these are statewide measures. So they include level of travel time reliability on both the interstate system and the non-interstate national highway system, as well as the level of truck travel time reliability on the interstate national highway system. The 2 specific urbanized area metrics focus on congestion. Those are percentage of non-single occupancy vehicle or SOV travel, as well as peak hour excessive delay. For the purposes of this body, I won't be touching on these factors, however. And then the final one is emissions. That's another statewide metric that focuses on the total reduction of on-road mobile source emissions from projects funded under the Federal Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality, or CMAQ program. And I'll begin with the level of travel time reliability, or LOTTR. And this metric is based on the amount of time it takes to drive the length of a road segment. And it's calculated as the percentage of person miles traveled that are considered reliable. Something important to note here is that reliability, as it's defined by FHWA, does not necessarily mean uncongested. And I'll touch on that more in the next slide. So this is a brief look into the methodology and calculations. This is all performed behind the scenes in the software platform that we use, but I think it's good to share so members can really get a good understanding of this particular metric. So we start off by collecting travel times, and then we focus in on the 50th percentile and the 80th percentile travel times on a particular road segment. And then we run the following equation. We divide the 80th by the 50th. We do that for the 4 time periods shown in the green table below, covering Monday to Friday in these 3 belts, and then weekends 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And after that calculation is run, essentially the smaller the number, the better. So we have a threshold here of 1.5. So anytime the output is greater than 1.5 for any single one of these windows of time, the whole segment is considered unreliable. And then going back to the point I made on the last slide about reliability not necessarily meaning congestion. So essentially, the smaller the number here, it means that the 50th and 80th percentile travel times are closer together. So on the one hand, this could mean that traffic is relatively free-flowing during these times, which would be great. But it could also mean that traffic is relatively congested pretty consistently. So again, reliability here, as defined by FHWA, does not necessarily mean uncongested. And then we convert all these calculations into a percentage of person miles traveled that are considered reliable. So this is a snapshot of the output from our data platform. We began this performance period in 2022. At that time, still emerging from COVID and impacts on travel and travel behavior from the pandemic. So we were at an interstate travel time reliability of roughly 78.4%. And at that time, we had established a 2-year target of reliability for 74% and a 4-year target of travel time reliability for 76%. And as you can see, we're relying on 2023 data here for the mid-performance period because it includes the complete year. And we did achieve that target, hitting 75% when the goal was 74%. And the year-to-date data for 2024 is pretty promising as well. It shows we are at about 74%. And we are not changing this 4-year target. And we do believe that the state can achieve this 76% reliability target 2 years from now. And then a similar snapshot here for non-interstate travel time reliability, beginning at 87% at the first year of our performance period. We developed targets, a 2-year target of 85% travel time reliability on the non-interstate and a 4-year target of 87%. And same rules apply here. We use the latest full year of data that's available, which in this case was 2023. We'd achieved a target, a reliability of 86.1%, which does meet our 85% target. And the year-to-date data for 2024 looks pretty good as well. It's very similar to the previous year. So we are confident that we can achieve the 4-year target 2 years from now as well. Moving on to truck travel time reliability. This metric is very similar to level of travel time reliability. It is based on the amount of time it takes trucks to drive the length of a road segment. The difference here is this measure is only reported on the interstate system level. We do not calculate it for the non-interstate because it's not required by FHWA. This is another look at the methodology and the calculations that are performed behind the scenes. Very similar to level of travel time reliability, but the biggest difference here is that we are finding the 50th and 95th percentile times. Still comparing it across these 4 window periods below, but this particular metric is not converted to a percentage. It remains as an index. And again, the smaller the number here, the better, because it means the travel times at these particular percentiles is closer. And this is a snapshot of truck travel time reliability. Beginning in 2022, at the start of this performance period, reliability was at about 1.71. We had established a 2-year target of 1.8 and a 4-year target of 1.75. So essentially, we want our reliability to be below these numbers. The smaller the number, the better. So the fullest year-to-date data we have, the fullest complete year of data we have is 2023 at 1.75. So we have achieved this 2-year target. Year-to-date data in 2024 is also promising at 1.76. So we are confident that we can achieve that 4-year target of 1.75 2 years from now. And this table is just a summary of all the information I shared with you so far. I included some of the years prior to the pandemic, just so we can get a sense of how travel time reliability has changed before and after the pandemic. You can see reliability hovering around 68, 69% here. And then when the pandemic hit, that basically jumped very high because there were much fewer folks traveling on our interstates and our non-interstates. And it's sort of come back to earth years following the pandemic. And we expect it to be a little bit more predictable as travel patterns, commuting behaviors, et cetera, sort of start to even out. Then the last statewide metric for the performance measure 3 is our emissions reduction metric. This is the on-road mobile source emissions measure as calculated by summing 2- and 4-year totals of emissions reductions in kilograms per day. So at the start of this performance period, the cities of Lowell, Waltham, Worcester, Springfield, and Dukes County were all classified as air quality attainment areas, which is a joint classification performed by the Environmental Protection Agency as well as FHWA. Every 2 years, that classification is revisited and shared to our DOT partners. So last October, we were informed that these 4 cities had reached the end of their air quality maintenance periods. So the only remaining non-attainment area in the entire state is Dukes County. And normally, during this sort of leg of the presentation, we share CMAQ program projects
Thank you, Burroughs. Let's give him a second to come back in. Did we look at a few people? Just something at the top, right?
Now we lost him entirely.
Yeah. Mike, did you want one of the other people to pick up where he left off at?
I could share my screen. I can't talk to this as nearly as well as Chris can. Although I am familiar with the subject. I did come from the Houston region where we digested this material every single month. So I'm very familiar with the context, just not in Massachusetts or in the Boston area. I'm assuming Chris would summarize this table where it shows a breakdown of the baseline and then the target years and then the mid-year performance, the mid-performance period values for not only the level of travel time reliability, but the truck travel time reliability, and then the non-SOV performance measures. And I'll just note, Mr. Chair, some of these measures we actually do use on Nantucket. You might recall the select board, Brooke absolutely can recall that the select board has a strategic goal of reducing SOV trips, so single occupancy vehicle trips. We have that goal and target locally, but this is a requirement at the for many large regions to do this. So this is I guess easily understandable, I guess, or you can appreciate the fact that they do this not only at the state and state level and then major regions, but also we do it here locally on Nantucket.
Picking that up, Mike. Apologies. I think my internet just died.
Did I give it any justices at all?
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Yeah, the last two slides were essentially, I mean, again, I hope you caught that we have nothing to share on behalf of the emissions reductions measure. But I did have a particular slide that just shared the numbers that were given to us from FHWA, just for reference, that this is where we were at the baseline and the 2 and 4 year targets we established. And then the numbers that are in that table in the previous slide were the numbers populated by them. They run their own calculations. And then this is the final slide, just summarizing essentially all the information shared today. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Anyone have any questions?
I do.
I mean, what could you even ask? It's kind of hard to ask a question.
So if I can help make it more digestible, in all of the regional tip documents that are prepared seasonally, I know Mike prepares one for Nantucket. We ask our planning partners to essentially connect these performance measures to the projects they're programming and funding in their tip. Saying, how is it helping us to advance the measures of PM2 and PM3, and obviously PM1, which is safety, which we haven't presented on today, that comes every January, just to provide a little bit more context. And then we also have asset management plans at the state level that go kind of drive into more detail about the state's particular performance metrics that we use. The ones Annabelle and I presented today are federally required, so we have no wiggle room to drill down any further. So that's why the state has their own metrics that we track to see where we're moving the needle on some targets that are more specific than these, which are quite broad.
I got a question, Chris, for you. This a seasonal question. So on the Cape in Nantucket, the vehicles all come out of the woodwork for 3 months. I mean, like triple the amount of vehicles are all of a sudden driving. Is there any way to I mean, other parts of the state don't have that. Is that something that you guys take into consideration with averages for say year round versus seasonal, and how it all kind of flushes out?
Yeah, so I mean, we do drill into month by month. If you recall the reliability slides I had, I showed the latest year data by month. So some of the bars representing the summertime, when folks are really out and about traveling a lot, tend to be less reliable because you have way more people traveling, and in particular to regions like your own. Thanks, Mike. And going to Nantucket, going to the islands, going to the Cape. So MassDOT does have the resources and maintains the data to drill down even further. We do that for particular projects, I'm sure. But if there's any particular area you'd like to look into, I'm happy to connect you with a resource or try to grab a graphic for you.
I was just making a point that the vehicles.
So long story short, yes, I think that's taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, perfect.
Just as a new member of the commission, maybe Mike can answer this. How does this tie back to Nantucket, where we don't have any interstate roads? So, how do we contribute to this data, and how does it impact our projects or funding, or, what's the connection?
Well, just agenda-wise, the next item on the agenda is to consider whether to add a certain corridor of roadways to the NHS, to where we'd want to participate and be part of informing the entire data system. I'll try to answer your question by just expanding on the answer to Nat. This is the entire network statewide that's on average. So although we do have hyper congestion and delays on the Cape and Islands, well, Cape Cod and the bridges and everything else, that's in this data, and it's reflective in the red bars, but this is averaged over the entire system. So you're not going to see the acute locations like southeastern Massachusetts. This is over the network of the entire state. So just to go back to your question, Brooke, of how this related to Nantucket, if we did want to add roadways to the NHS, we could participate in this performance measure exercise. We would get have data collected on traffic conditions along that segment of NHS because we're required to by federal statute. And then if there were certain underperforming areas of that segment of NHS, we would be eligible for funding through the National Highway Performance Program, which is a whole set of funding that's that we currently do not have access to, that would help maintain that corridor for, again, safety reasons, condition reasons, if it's in poor quality, or reliability. And I think that we could maybe take advantage of that and improve our roadway system. So I hope that kind of addresses the question, Brooke, of not just for Nantucket, but Nantucketers also go and travel throughout the state, and probably there's a curiosity about how the network is performing for a lot of the roadways that we need to access services on the mainland.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Anyone else? All right, Mike. So let's go to the extension of what we just heard and what you'd like to do. So this is item B, authorize request.
So thank you, Chris, and the rest of the staff there at OTP for that presentation.
Thank you.
Here's the request for functional reclassification and additions to the NHS system. And just briefly summarizing, and there is a very brief and succinct memo in the packet, as well as some definitions of functional classification in the packet material. But just real briefly, the NHS is first and foremost intended to be more for the defense system of the country. It's more I guess the genesis of it was from that, but it also is for movement of goods and freight across the country. It links interstates and highways, but also some of these local arterials, these non-interstate roadways that are so important. And I think some of you might believe that we have some roadways on Nantucket that are not interstate, but are still very important. Again, they're subject to the various performance measures for safety, condition, and reliability. There's the funding programs, and the NHS does include the critical urban freight corridors, which you may recall from last summer. We did a presentation, and there was one of the comments from the NPDC was to add essentially the truck route and Milestone Road to the critical urban freight corridor, because that corridor was so important to movement of goods and connecting with our industrially zoned area, connecting that area to our port at Steamboat Wharf. So here's the map of the NHS system in Massachusetts. I will, if you can see it, note that there is a light blue, a secondary system of NHS on the Vineyard that connects Oak Bluffs to, I believe it's Edgartown. If I'm getting that right, that was a designation earlier in the 2000s for that island. Nantucket does not currently have a section of NHS on our roadways, but you can see the rest of the statewide. It's pretty robust, and again highlighted by the red interstate system throughout the state. With regarding to roadway classifications, again, the classification system is meant to kind of characterize the context of the roadway and the uses along that roadway. Arterial obviously is one of the higher classification systems that provided the highest level of mobility for long uninterrupted distances. And then we get into what we have a lot of on Nantucket as far as major collectors and minor collectors. These are like a Surfside Road, Old South Road, Nantucket Road. The major roadways that connect with schools and retail centers and connect local roadways to the smaller uses. And then we have the lowest system, which is a local roadway system, which is really meant for just local traffic and not necessarily cut through traffic. Now, when MassDOT did solicit some changes from the regions, if there was any appetite to make modifications to the NHS or functional classification system, I did go back through and look at older transportation plans, because I do recall that we had some appetite for reclassification of local roads to collectors because they had matured and grown into becoming more of a connection between local roads into some of their commercial centers. And those are the bullet points there: Fairgrounds, South Shore Road, Bartlett, Somerset. Here's a map of those areas showing Crooked Lane, Somerset Lane, Bartlett Road, Fairgrounds and Airport Road as wanting to reclassify those from local to collector. And I'll note that also, in order to be eligible for federal funding, a roadway does need to be classified as collector or higher to receive federal funds. So if we, it helps I guess the justification for any project that we may have at the NPVC level that we want to fund with federal funds, that we ensure that those roadways are on the collector system. So again, Mr. Chair, we do have some, I did note the request to add various roadways to the NHS system. The requested action is to authorize staff to coordinate with Mass DOT to add the town's truck route. That's from Steamboat Wharf to Bunker Road to the NHS system, and seek classification of that corridor as not only part of the NHS, but also part of the critical urban freight corridor, as well as authorize staff to coordinate with Mass DOT to reclassify various roadways presented by staff and on the maps here that I had shared from collector, from local to collector. And I'll just note that there is an application. There's lots of forms that need to be filled out. It's not necessarily an action, but in order to start this work, because it is going to be a little bit of effort involved with putting together like traffic volumes and justifications, that you do authorize staff to do that coordination. And lastly, Mr. Chair, I'll note that before you take action on these items, that there is I did note in the memorandum there was a deadline of November 15th. That's why there was kind of an urgency to take action at this meeting on these requests. I did speak recently with Mass DOT, and there's some flexibility with that. So we do have our next meeting on November 18th. If you would like to have this serve as an introduction to the topic, I can collect questions, and if we can't answer questions now, perhaps we can answer those before the meeting on November 18th, and then we can take action at that time. But with that said, I'm happy to take those questions if there are any.
Okay, just leave that screen up if you would, Mike, at this point.
Yeah.
For the moment, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brooke.
So my question, Mike, is what kind of time burden or reporting burden does this add to staff workload?
John, I don't think it's going to be like a week's worth of time to put together the material. This might be something that takes a few hours to put together, but I think just the liaising and answering questions with SDOT staff. I might have to ask Miranda if she's had some familiarity with requests coming from regions and just what the time dedication is, or how long it takes to process that, and what the staff burden is. But I don't believe it's too difficult, but Miranda might be able to correct me if that's the correct statement.
I guess what I hadn't thought about the initial work, but I'm thinking more on an ongoing basis. Does it add, are we already doing reporting on this and we're just adding a few more roads, or what is the ongoing updating to participate?
I'm sorry. Yeah, with the performance measures and just tracking that, well, one, it would be coordinating more regular presentations like this to just see where we are and where we need to go. But the data collection is right now it's on Mass DOT to actually coordinate a lot of the data collection of like what the safety conditions are, what the actual physical condition of the pavement and bridges, and then what the operational reliabilities are. Mass DOT collects that, and I believe they have contracts already with vendors to collect that and share that information with the regions rather than actually burdening the regions with those efforts.
Go ahead. I know you got a question.
Again, Mike, how you doing? This is the first time talked about this too. At least I can't remember another time we talked about this. So I got a couple things, Mike. Chapter 90. Does this affect Chapter 90 at all, or is this an additional layer of potential funding for specific? I'm thinking of Joe's group right now, things that we need to do that are not typical Chapter 90 funding stuff, like the issue with e-bikes and bike path widenings or shoulders, or I'm just in general question. to adding some of these roads?
Sure. I don't think there would be any penalty to the Chapter 90. This is in addition to the Chapter 90 program.
Okay, that's what it sounded like, but I wasn't really sure 100%. So are you asking for the Bunker Road, Washington Street part to be done now? Or are you asking for everything that's in that slide on page 33? Which
Yeah,
is
this is
complicated to follow all that.
yeah, this is the map here. I guess the corridors with the white outline are the ones we want to change from local, or the request is to reclassify them from local to collector. And then there's the yellow dotted line from Steamboat Wharf in and out of town and out to Bunker Road that would be part of the NHS.
Okay. What about it? What about Old South to Airport? I'm not trying to like make your job harder, but just curious with trucks going out there in the summertime for jet fuel and all that. I'm not that that really matters. I'm just, the majority of the trucks go to Bunker. That is true. But not totally. So I'm just asking what you think about that.
I think the ones in red are already.
They're already included?
It's my understanding that the ones in red are already urban collector or minor.
Okay.
Rural. So he's just wants to add more red. Is that correct, Mike?
Exactly.
Okay, so the special striping that you have for Bunker is in addition to make it red.
Correct. It's
okay.
The yellow dotted line is the what we're asking to add to the national highway system. And there could be some appetite in the future to add other corridors if there's other industrial destinations that come about to the airport. But for right now, I think the most logical thing is to go with the Bunker Road.
So you're asking, I see what's going on. I got it. Okay. So this isn't like the end. This is the beginning from right now. Okay.
Go ahead, Kristen.
So I just have a few questions as far as when these get added to the national highway system. I guess to compare, the Milestone Road is a state highway, and that has huge differences to all the other roads. And so my question is by doing this, are we going to be looking like the state highway, or is it completely different? I guess I'll stop there, and then if it is going to be like Milestone, then I have some further comments.
Short answer, no. There are design guidelines for the NHS. Since we do have some roadways that are kind of atypical in character to Milestone Road going into Steamboat Wharf, Easy Street and Washington Street, there's a little bit different designs than say a Milestone Road. There are exemptions that are granted, so you don't necessarily have to rebuild a road to do that. And just the example, and just I guess to set your mind at ease, the Vineyard has the same system of roadways from the Oak Bluffs terminal on the Vineyard to go out of that village through the island and into the village of Eggertown. And that doesn't necessarily mean that those roadways need to be developed into highways or interstate highways, but they can keep their context. It's just a classification of the use of those roadways would, have eligibility for other funding programs and to be have data collected on them so we can track the performance and how they're doing with safety, condition, and reliability.
Can I just rephrase?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So if we reclassify these, will there be additional requirements on these roads, i.e. special signing, i.e. house moving? When you move a house over a regular road, over Nantucket roads, it's fine. If it has one condition, you go over a Milestone and it's a whole nother application. So what are the additional requirements if these are reclassified?
Hopefully nothing.
This might be one of the questions where we take that down and try to expand on that next month. But I would say since those roadways, other than Milestone Road, since the other roadways are locally controlled, that there wouldn't be really any of these other ramifications.
Christina's right, Mike. She's asking basically, what's the Nantucket factor involved in this? So we don't get, blown up in 3 months with some other problem that we don't need to fix. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
If you understand that what we're asking, Mike.
I at
Is this a
100,000%
paperwork
understand what you're
thing, or is this for real?
What will this make us obligated to do to those roads?
Yeah. The widening is one thing, a couple feet, because it should have been that way 30 years ago, but other things are where what Christine is asking, the signage issues, some of the stuff that we don't really need here that they might require us to have. That's what she's saying.
So Miranda's got her hand raised and she actually maybe provide some
Oh,
answers
good.
for us.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No?
I can't provide too many answers. I don't want to get your hopes up, but I will say that from what I know about the process, MassDOT would be working with Mike and the council. Yes, sorry. And we would be putting together traffic counts on the proposed like reclassified roads, and putting together paperwork for FHWA Federal Highway to take a look at it. Federal Highway is the like final determination on whether or not the reclassification goes through. I'm happy to, spend some time offline with Mike and with our federal partners to figure out what is sort of like not guaranteed approval, but more likely to get approval than not. And maybe that would help the body all like decide which roads might be more favorable to reclassify than others. And like Mike said, it's really just about unlocking some more federal funding availability, as well as those performance measures. But even reclassifying 1 or 2 roads, it wouldn't put too much work on MPO staff to update those performance measures, and MassDOT does a lot of the data collection as well.
Yeah. Dave?
So just to be clear, what we're being asked to add or consider adding to the national highway system is just basically from town out to Bunker Road. And the second part of that, and I'm not sure I'm clear what the implications of that is to consider the other 2 roads, which looks like it's Bartlett Road and some other roads, and reclassify them as feeder roads. Is that correct, Mike?
From local classification to collector.
To collector, what does that exactly do if we change that classification?
One, you become eligible for federal aid for those corridors. If you ever want to do a shared use path down Crooked Lane, I'm just making up a hypothetical. If you wanted to have Crooked Lane bike path be a TIP project, that would need to be a collector roadway. Same with Somerset or the other roadways. And it helps with intersection project as well. I'm saying bike path, but it could be. I think I hear the concern is that these would be 4-lane roadways, and that's absolutely not true. It's not a trigger that would happen by reclassifying these from local to collector.
Too late to capture funds for the hopeful Somerset Road bike path if that change happens soon, or is that ship sailed?
I don't know if it's sailed. I know that we have a TIP target, amount of funding that we usually have available in the TIP, and right now I think we're probably overcommitted in some of our projects that we have in the TIP in the near term for federal aid. But in future years down the road, if there was still an appetite for the project, it hasn't been funded with local funds over some period of time, then yes, it would be eligible if it was classified as collector roadway to be included as a TIP project and under Mass DOT review and built by Mass DOT.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, just one question. Christina elaborated on the concern with the signs going downtown. Would going to a national highway system, would that also be affecting the surfacing with like the cobblestone sections that we have downtown? I guess that's just a question to consider or get the answer to eventually.
Yeah, I'll take a note of that and just confirm it. I'm gonna say no, again, by just with some other examples I'm familiar with, that there isn't this trigger of requirement to change the pavement to, a prescriptive type, that, the character of the roadways and the context will still be preserved. Again, we would want to unlock funding if there was, say, a resiliency project that was very important, and we want to make sure that access to the Steamboat Wharf is needed. And, because this is NHS, our likelihood of getting that project funded is accelerated. So I think we're just trying to unlock as many funding benefits as possible. The design and any type of other elements like signage or shoulders or anything like this, I don't. That's not part of the requirement, unless there's an appetite to do it. Again, that there might be, I don't think it's going to happen, but some initiative to improve access along those corridors. But if there's not, then there's really no prerequisite to do it or requirement to do it.
I guess my final comment on it was that there was some really good improvements that went through that area in the past couple of years, but with widening roadways, I think we're all sensitive to signs and road surface, but maybe some widening, there might be an appetite for it at some point.
Well, then it's coming, but we talked about it. Yeah.
We'll have to look at it.
Oh.
Mike, could you do me a favor? There's like two or three slides back, you had a list of the roadways that you were considering adding in. Can you bring that back? There it is. Is there more being added to that list?
I'm sorry?
Is there more that 2016 long range transportation plan to reclassify? Are there more roadways to be added onto that list?
For right now, I would say no.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that others could be added in the future.
Okay. And if I heard you correctly, the state would like this wrapped up by November 15th, but they'll grace us to the 18th if people need some more time with that. Is that a correct?
I'm told it's even more flexible to the week of the 18th. So, we have our meeting on the 18th. If there was some action, then I guess by the close of the week, I could communicate that. And then whatever steps that they tell me I need to be doing, forms I need to submit, I'll do those. But yeah, they're being very flexible about this since this is kind of a new topic, and it's a lot to ask to cover in one meeting.
Beautiful. So Joe, get a chance just to look at the roadway systems he's talking about. Are you good with that? So can you just advance one slide then to your actions? There it is. Perfect. Thank you. So any more questions from the board? Yeah.
If we were to vote to proceed with the process, obviously there's an application and then they have to be accepted, right? So it's like applying to college. At some point, I'm assuming then there's another action to formalize it. Or is this, if we proceed now, is that like all the way to the end, that if we get accepted, we're done? Or is there another step to accept the nomination, as it were?
I might have to lean on Miranda for this. My experience when I did this in Texas was that we submit this to the state, the request of the state, and then, as Miranda said, Federal Highway would either thumbs up or thumbs down the requests, or give some, ones that are more applicable than others, and then respond back to the state of what they would accept, and then the local community would be notified. I don't know if I'm talking out of school there, Miranda. Is that right?
Yeah, so basically we would be MassDOT and the commission would be partnering in like the request to Federal Highway. And part of that, work ahead of time is figuring out traffic counts, which I think, lend themselves to which classification makes the most sense for the roadway in terms of daily vehicle volume. And so I'm drafting some emails right now to our federal partners to try and schedule a time to discuss what they look for in the application. I don't know if it's the local division office that handles it or if it's headquarters in DC, but then we'll also be working with our GIS team at MassDOT to do sort of the data collection in that way as well.
With the seasonality of traffic here, if data collection happens in February, we're gonna have a totally different case than if it happens in July or August.
Okay.
So I don't know whether that's. It's just something, I think that's a question that I'd like answered, is timing of data collection, because it could
Fits into what I asked.
make it unlikely that they think that there's enough traffic to qualify us, even though there is. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mike knows all that stuff.
Any other comments, questions? All right, so board members, you have an opportunity to either act on this tonight by doing the 2 requests that Mike has put up there. If you want to take a little bit more time to gather some more information, we have until the week of November 18th, and we'll definitely have to vote one way or another on this on the 18th. But if you're going to delay till then, I'm going to strongly encourage you at this point, make sure you spend some time with Mr. Burns there to really understand and get the answers that you want vetted out process. So, what's the pleasure of the commission at this point?
I would be okay to vote tonight.
Yeah.
That's just one voice.
You kind of just little head nods, kind of go like we're ready to go.
I'm good.
Okay,
And just
yeah, go ahead.
just kind of back to Mike again, if you feel confident that this is all about funding and not about changing or having additional requirements that the federal level is gonna put on these roads, then I'm comfortable to vote.
Mike?
I'm comfortable with that. And like I said, Mr. Chair, there, we've gone through various project development processes that where those if there are any changes or requests, those are shared locally. If there's pushback on those, then we can have those conversations. And if it turns out that there's no appetite or a way to get in front of that is to remove these corridors from those systems, I'm sure you could take action of that at the time as well. But I'm pretty confident that this is strictly funding, and that the local community is going to have a lot of input about the aesthetics, the signage, the materials that are used, all that, as it has been the experience recently with some of the other projects that have happened along Milestone Road. There's really is a lot of coordination with the local community on just getting what the making sure it's an acceptable project for the local community.
Any last minute questions? So if you'd like to move ahead tonight, what I'm going to ask you to do, Mike, do you want those as 2 separate authorizations, or do you want to just blend them together?
You can merge them together if you'd like.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask you to read from the screen what you see up there at this point, to move this ahead tonight if you'd like. If someone would like to make a motion then? Otherwise, we're waiting until the 18th of November. So, yeah, so you're going to say I'd like to authorize staff to.
So I'll make a motion that we authorize staff to as written here, to follow through on the requested actions.
So basically coordinate with DOT and town's truck route and portions of Milestone Road, between Milestone Road and Bunker Road to the NHS. And then additionally to authorize staff to coordinate with Mass DOT to classify various roadways presented by the staff from the local to collector.
I'll second.
Just in case no one had to.
And I'll second the motion.
The motion is now made and second. Is there discussion on the issue? Hearing none. Roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Christina?
Hi.
Bert?
Aye.
Abby? Joe Topham?
Aye.
Abby, one last chance. Chair votes in the affirmative as well. Maybe Abby will join us, but there we have it. Okay, thank you. Mike, that should be everything, yes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and oops, yeah, it stopped share. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the DOT staff for assisting with this.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Okay, that's going to bring us to section 8 here. So first thing we want to get into is a discussion on the Director of Planning for annual review process and the personal action form processing. Leslie, do you want to start by talking about the personal action form? Because it's a mouthful and I think people may, if they're not familiar with the process, maybe would appreciate a little clarity on it.
All right, so I had a copy of my contract on my desk, which I left on my desk. So I can't read from that exactly, but my contract with the commission says that I may be granted an annual raise based on a favorable review done by the commission. The paperwork that is used by the town for any changes in pay is a personnel action form, and that, you know, does require a vote from the commission when we get to that. So it's the review, then the form.
Yeah. And I think because we're still trying to straighten out some things on that as well, the request was to hold that till November, is that?
Yes,
correct?
to do the review.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the review and hold the personal action at the
Yes.
same time until November, okay. So the annual review is, I want to just touch base on that for a few minutes, because that is in Leslie's contract, which I was kind of surprised by. To be very truthful, about 2 years ago, when Andy Vorse was still the director, he had requested the commission assented to stop the review process. Not doing anything. What we found further was that town administration, the town administrator doesn't, they used to have a review, they don't at the moment. I don't know if that's going to get resurrected in the future, as well as the fact that the senior non-union, it's a mouthful, are done at kind of a very random basis. There's no set time, so it may be done, it may not be done. And we're still looking into that a little bit more. But clearly, if you look at Leslie's contract in section 4.1, it does say there should be a performance review done. So I think when this went through, this was something that was overlooked. It was. But here it is in black and white, and it is part of what needs to take place. So I think there are three potentials that sit out there about how that review can be done. The first one is we go back to an older paper review where every commissioner had the ability to be able to put down their thoughts, grade everything. The grades were tabulated, and that kind of set everything into motion in terms of what would happen with that. So that was the first thing, which I know it goes back a little bit of a ways, but it is out there, it can be resurrected. The second thought with this was to have the chair of the planning board and the chair of the planning commission do a review for Leslie. So, and the reason behind using those two individuals was because out of probably everyone on the commission, we probably have the most deep working and maybe intimate relationship with Leslie in terms of what goes on in terms of the process. So that was a thought about how to conduct it. The third thought was to do what I'd call performance ad lib, which basically means that you all have the ability to interact with the chair and or Leslie. I mean, if she's doing a stellar performance, you could bring that up and we can discuss it one-on-one. If there are performance issues that need to be taking place, which I should think would happen anyways, that you're bringing it to the attention of Leslie as well too. Paper process shouldn't be a function of, here we go, I'm going to grade on certain things, on other things I've got some problems. She should know about that well in advance, or anyone should know about that well in advance of what's going on. But it really is up to the commission to try to decide what you want to see take place for a performance review. I would advocate for you to go to the one where you interact with her as you need to. And do that in fairness to how the town itself is conducting that process. So there's my 2 cents. There's some thoughts at this point. I would love to hear from you all. Go ahead.
So I don't agree with the 2 chairs. I think everyone in this room has voted one way or another for Leslie's contract that was on the board at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone's voice is important. I just have concerns about kind of the more ad lib way of doing it. And just my concern is A, appropriateness. B, I mean, I don't think there's any HR director in this country that would say, yeah, just march in the office and let them know how you feel. Leslie knows I have a lot of respect for her. I just think that this process should be done in a more structured, sensible way. Similar to how we did Andrew. I just think that is a more fair process, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, Christine, and I'll go to John.
I just have, I mean, I've struggled with this a little bit since I began on this commission and understanding, our role and involvement with Leslie as a commission from the NP and EDC, as well as all the other roles and hats that Lizzie does wear for the town, running the bus department, and running a whole nother set of staff that we have little to zero interaction with. So that's where I don't really understand how I, as an individual from this point and what she contributes to this job is one thing, but then there's a whole nother job. And how do we incorporate feedback from that? And to me, and I've run into this in a couple different areas about evaluating a director. Is it how do you communicate with the staff, or how do you get staff feedback, and how do you include, it's been helpful in situations I've seen to get staff feedback, because sitting here once a month and having interactions with questions that I might have about NP and EDC doesn't let me know how the electrical inspector is doing with his job, who you're responsible for. So I know that's a larger question, but it's one that I've kind of questioned, or have had that question, and this is obviously a good place to bring it up.
John?
Yeah, that's a similar one, Mr. Chair. And I'm not sure the correct term, but I think, Leslie, you're on Libya's sort of governance team, or whatever it's called. And that's
cabinet.
The cabinet. So that seems to me would be a very relevant part of the job. That's our top tier town management team, and Leslie is on it. So I would think that Libby our town manager, should have some input. I kind of felt like, sorry, David, but I kind of felt like the one way would be the 2 chairs and Libby as the 3 that would put this together. In fairness to Leslie, for all of us to start trooping through your office and, one day, Wendy's coming in and saying, great job, Leslie. And the next day I'm in there saying, so what did you screw that up for? That's not helpful to you. That's not helpful. And I think our 2 chairs should be a bit of a screen for that, so that you're not getting all these mixed messages. So I would say one option would be the 2 chairs and our town manager.
I'm gonna give you some history after it as well too, but I'd like to just kind of entertain the questions first. Because it'll be important to understand how we're getting there.
Well, that's just an option.
Okay. Abby, go ahead.
Hi. Sorry before I was double muted if you guys couldn't hear me. I figured it out. So sorry about that. I think everybody brought up really good points. Like I think Christina, you totally brought up valid points about not necessarily, but I just wanted to speak a little bit about the process being I don't know if people know what my day job is, but I work in employee experience. So this is something we do all the time. And so what I would recommend would be a version of doing what's called a 360-degree evaluation, which kind of incorporates all the pieces you guys talk about. It would be incorporating feedback from Living in Town administration. It could be incorporating feedback from the other commissioners. It would be incorporating feedback from all of the staff as well. There are different ways you can do it. Often the way we do it is in anonymous survey so that you can get feedback. People can be honest, but it wouldn't be traced back to one person versus the other. So that would just be like, as Dave kind of pointed out initially in his comments, I think that putting a lot of structure around it would be helpful. But I think being able to incorporate the feedback from the different groups is really important because it would be, you know, incorporating feedback from managers, from staff, but also people you might partner with on a daily basis. So that's where I think Dave did have a good point of, I don't think it should necessarily just be 2 people. I think you need to get that kind of broad group of feedback from everyone. And then what you can kind of do is distill that down into certain key themes that you would be discussing. And again, I'm happy to help on this process because this is something we do often, but I think that we could definitely do that and prepare it for November and just do it in a structured way that makes sense for everyone. But I do think making sure that you do get a broad group of feedback in a way that people are honest, but also constructive and, you know, productive. It's the way you ask certain questions. It's different stuff like that to make sure that you're getting, you know, helpful feedback and that it's not, you know, outliers on either end of the spectrum. So that was just 2 cents. Hopefully, if you guys think that's helpful.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is the normal route for feedback from employees in the department that if they have a concern? Because we have unions involved here, right? So there are, so there's written procedures in union contracts on raising issues with reporting dynamic, you know, supervisor dynamics and so on and so forth. So we have to be very careful that we're not stepping on union Meg's been a union rep. So so that we're not contravening what's in the contracts that staff are governed by, union staff are governed by. So I just want to bring that into the mix. This should not be a free-for-all for complaints or grievances or issues because Leslie's made tough calls on staff. I want to be super careful around that. And I also have heard a lot about, you know, we've talked today a lot about consistency of policies across the town, and this role is unique in that it crosses the Regional Planning Commission and town. And so there's sort of this funky dynamic of what policies and procedures govern Leslie's position, her contracts, the whole thing, right? Including this idea of a review. So I'm still very much on a learning curve. I would be curious, Abby, like to sort of have a framework maybe proposed in consultation with Leslie, because the idea of a review isn't to blindside someone. It's meant to give constructive feedback. And I yeah.
Brooke, like you're totally right. And Leslie, I would be happy to work with you. Like the idea of doing a review is that nothing should be a surprise, and that it really is just saying, hey, these are the things that we talked about doing. Obviously, stuff happens during whatever period that is, and things might change, but it should never be a surprise. As you pointed out, it shouldn't just be a place for complaints, negative feedback, like there. And so that's why I think if we structure it and come up with certain themes, and as you point out, like, people have to make hard decisions, and people don't like them, but they still might be the right decision. So, you know, making sure that you structure it properly is really important. And again, I'm happy to help. We do this all the time. Like, you guys should see the comments we see. I guarantee Leslie won't have these kinds of comments, but it goes across the board. But there's a way that you deal with the way feedback is presented, and then how you're kind of pulling out those themes. But again, I'm happy to help. If, you know, Leslie, Megan, you guys wanted to meet, I'm happy to help you guys do that. Like I said, this is my day job, so any help you need, I can do it.
So just a few comments. I would really be concerned about the idea that there are anonymous evaluations floating out there. I view that as highly problematic. I think if someone's going to do an evaluation of someone, at a minimum, they need to put their name to it so that there is at least a sense of who's saying what, and the ability to be able to confront them and deal with them on the basis that where things may need to be clarified. So I'm not really keen on the whole sense of an anonymous staff-based review. As Brooke said, I think there's a methodology for dealing with that, which is the union under which to do it. So, but doing it with the commission is a different story. So I want to lend a little history here too. We invited Libby when we first drafted out the PLUS agreement back in 2011 to participate in the process. She did for a bit, and then all of a sudden she basically said, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's fine. So town administration backed off of contributing to the review process. So that left the commissioners to do the process, which at that time was still paper. One feedback that I got, you kind of brought up in a roundabout way, was that people looked at it, and we tried to come up with something that was reflective of all the various areas that happens with Leslie's job. But some people, and especially newer people, are like, I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue what she does. I don't have a clue how she interacts with staff. I don't have, you know, there wasn't that familiarity with things. And I understand that we're all busy people, but on the other side of the coin, I also ask people as well too, well, you kind of need, if you're going to be sitting on this commission, you really should be gathering some of that information. You should have an understanding of what she does, what the performances are that has to take place. And again, being able to confront her is if like I said, if she's doing a great job, confront her with that. That's a beautiful thing. I love it. But if there are problems as well too, I think that instead of finding out retrospectively, these things should be brought up so that people have an opportunity to be able to, especially the employee, has an opportunity to be able to address it and deal with it. Because again, it might be a situation that they're not aware of with the process. So there was kind of this mixed bag of things. And when it came time for people, when the entire commission was charged with doing it, what I found is some people said, that's great, that's a lovely thing. I'm not doing it. I don't want to, because I don't feel like I've got a good handle or I'm a good barometer for what she does in her job capacity to be able to evaluate that fairly. I found some people just plain old skipped over things at times. But, you know, I as one person, I would make an argument that if you're sitting on this commission, you should probably get to know your staff. You probably really should know your staff and what they are required to do, what they do. Again, You know, I mean, I don't think there's a week that goes by that I'm not in Leslie's office. God, probably Leslie's under her hands and me say, it's Barry again, geez. But again, we keep in touch pretty drastically at this point, because I think that really is what's involved in the process. But even when I wasn't sharing something, I still found myself going in and just getting updates on what the heck was going on. That's invaluable to me. Because it wasn't just a matter of what's going on, I was also learning things in the process as well too. So I just want you to take that into consideration of kind of what came out of the past when we were doing those kind of things. I'll come back, but go ahead.
I'm just thinking of all the different organizations I'm part of, and this is never like perfect. It's all, especially on a small island when everyone knows everybody. But, you know, often it's an executive committee, and I don't know if any town things have that, especially as we look to making this a bigger group. It feels like people with more experience and more, you know, intimate, as you said, you know, workings, are more informed, you know, better informed. The other thing that is always valuable is when there's like goals and everything ahead of time, like at the beginning of the year, this is what these are our goals. We're gonna do this, that, and the other. Did it happen? No. Did it not? You know, and that does have the 360, which is super valuable. It's like you get a positive from your team. The union says, great. You know, if there's a piece in there that's off, you know, it factors in. And often this is more related to bonuses than just sort of a raise, which is sort of an interesting sort of thing that could be maybe looked at. You know, because then it gives you a little bit of a, like and again, the no surprise thing is huge. Like there shouldn't be surprises. There shouldn't be disappointment. There shouldn't be an automatic stamp of you get 100% raise every single year. You know, I don't know. Like, you know, we all want to say that, you know, we all want, if it's all going well, then that's great. But if there's anything, then there's some nuance there that we don't always get to see, because usually sitting here, we're like, it is going well. And we do feel like it's good. So I just think, you know, maybe for this year, I don't know quite where we're all going to land on it, but as we're sort of looking at this enabling legislation and looking at the composition of the board, it might be an opportunity to, you know, to refine this going forward.
I like what Wendy just said. It's amazing. I kind of had some similar notes. So, but I have to make it nostalgic, so I'll have to go back a little ways. So the Survey Monkey stuff after the paper versions of Andrew.
Oh, that was even more horrific.
And so, and I know, and this is where I'm gonna put my steamship hat on for a second. It's like the same stuff. It's like whoever comes up with those evaluation forms has never done anything in their life, I think, except make forms. Because they're the same questions that ask a different way. Like you just answered this question, and then there's another question that's exactly the same as the previous question, but worded completely differently, but it's the same answer. So over time, now I think something you're missing about Libby on something she did. I think Libby was doing a kind of an informal review for a few years because of the plus agreement, and just sort of, she felt she should weigh in and do it. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that, Barry.
Initially she did, but I
remember this somehow, but
right, but
that's
I want to
okay.
be clear too about.
So as Wendy said, I was thinking about something similar to what she said. With all the things that have gone on just in recent years and COVID, I think we should revise the way this is done. I think it should be a commission, the whole commission doing it. I don't think it should be just the chairs. But not, so it's more about, like, let's say I said, okay, can't we just give her a score? Like a grade, like that's it, 85 or whatever it is. But then you have to have goals and objectives. You have to have something to break it down. And in my opinion, I think we should revise this process while we have the opportunity to be something that we come up with, or, you know, where we review parts of the plus office. The planning stuff that is technically under this commission, that's not planning board related stuff, but more planning commission related stuff. So that we have questions or evaluations that actually make sense to everyone on this board, not like one person really kind of understands it and no one else really does. that's the problem I think that we had with the way that evaluation was done before. It's like there was sort of a lot of answers that were really not real, like I hate to say it. You know what I mean? Like you had to give, okay, what am I really answering? So when you, and you used to do the averaging thing,
Yes, I
Barry,
did.
by hand, by the way, which worked fine. So I think it should be all of us doing it, but I think that the questions, the goals and objective stuff is Leslie's job to give us those things. We can't make that stuff up. That's stuff that has to start out each year. And I think that some of these things have been sort of forgotten, or they're just not, you know, in a formal way. And maybe we could use this process now to sort of start, I don't want to say from scratch, but restart this in a new way that makes more sense for us to answer definitively. That, if all that I just said made any sense, Barry. But I'm kind of agreeing with Wendy said, but I'm trying to put it in a different way. Start over, but not start over, you know, come up with a better process, so we're not having this discussion every year.
I'd probably say before you start making changes though, you need to be
With-
careful.
but
Just
where's
bear
the-
with me.
Okay,
Bear with me. Don't conclude where I'm gonna say something, okay? Just hang with me for a few moments, please. That did not help my train of thought. I think you need to be careful about how certain things are presented and worded in that process as well. I can at least assure you that what we did in the past met that criteria
definitely did.
without a problem. So if you're gonna go rearranging things, I hear you, but there's a bit of trepidation that sits there with it as well too, because you've got to be extremely fair and pointed and be able to identify what it is within your job. The second thing I want to say is, and I'm gonna go back and say it again, the consistency with how the town addresses this with their senior administration, non-union, and also for the town administrator is not routinely done. Okay, it's not routinely done. It's done. Sometimes it's done. There's no set time and reasoning to it. And I'm just co-authoring that as well too, because I think you need to hear that in relation to that Leslie is still part of the town as well. And that has to, you need to kind of entertain that process as well too. So I'm just looking at it from a fairness perspective.
And that's where that cabinet stuff comes in. That's where the who does what and who's responsible for what stuff comes in, which is really the town's related to her job. That's part of the MOU. That's part of that interconnectivity between Plus and the town, Barry.
Yeah, I understand.
And I understand that. I think that that's where we sort of have more general questions on about that, and that's where Libby comes in to that.
If she'll want to.
I think she would.
All right,
I
we
don't see
know
why
that,
she
though.
wouldn't.
And I'm just going off of past history.
I think that, I don't see any reason that she wouldn't want to participate in that.
Okay.
But I think you understand what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say rewrite the survey, I mean, the process of the review. I'm just saying, clean it up maybe so that it's not redundant and the questions are pertaining to the reality of what we're doing. That's all.
That is still a rewrite, no matter how you want to call it certain other things, it's still a rewrite. Let's be clear. You may incorporate certain elements of it, but it's still gonna be a rewrite, and that's gonna take some time.
So Mr. Chair, wherever we end up on this, for me, one thing should be clear. A week or so ago, I asked Leslie and she provided to me the job descriptions for her role and the deputy director. We do have an opportunity to take those job descriptions and add to them. I have not yet had a chance to study them because I got them today. But we should add to them, what are the goals and what are the measurements? Because a goal without a measurement you might as well throw it out the window. So I think we should, this isn't solving, well, who's going to do Leslie's thing next week? But it is, I think, really important that we set this up right for 2025. And that is a job description that everybody agrees is right. It does have measurable goals. And we do measure the performance on a quarterly basis, just like these guys were doing, with the Mass DOT. They got lofty goals, but they got measurements and they got reports. And I think, in fairness to all of our staff, we should do that. So that would be my ask, that for 2025, we look at those job descriptions. First of all, make sure that it is what the commission wants them to be. And then, okay, what measurable goals and reporting mechanisms are we going to put on? And this does not have to be complicated either. So that would be my thing. I think just though, so if I could go back on Libby, I think a point of view Libby took 12 years ago could very well be a little different today. So I do think we should go back and see if she wants to be involved in the here and now process. Thank you.
So you're suggesting that we move ahead kind of with something now and then next year do a revision?
It's a bit late now to say we're gonna now make some goals and objectives and base your salary review on them.
I wasn't saying that. But
No, I know.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
No. So yes, I'm saying let's take away. Let's not have this discussion again a year from now. Let's have it on a more fact-based.
No, I get that.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So, couple thoughts. First of all, Leslie's contract calls for an annual review. We cannot do a quarterly review. Would violate the terms of her contract.
I didn't mean that though.
Yeah,
I
no.
meant by looking at the metrics.
Okay. If there is a review process that exists somewhere, I sure as heck need to start there. We're talking about revising something that I've never seen.
Yep.
Okay, first of all. And second of all, I almost want Leslie to say what would be helpful for her to do her job well. And that's the basis for this, right? It's not us, because I can't know what it's like for her to manage people in the department or for her to attend conferences or do the things that she thinks. I mean, I like the idea of Abby and Leslie sitting down maybe with this old version and coming up with a mutually agreeable process by which we support our employee to the best of our ability. And whatever that turns out to be, maybe Leslie wants to hear how her staff feels about her in some way that makes sense. Maybe she wants to know what our goals are and whether she's achieving them. That's the place to start with this, I think, is let's craft a thing that works well, that's not imposed and feels like it's a opportunity for punishment or, negativity. I want it to really be a collaborative, positive experience for us and for Leslie. And for me, I'm brand new. So my capacity to contribute to this is really limited in my role as a commissioner. Others of you have been doing this for years and have more experience, and the process should take that into account as well, So that's my thought. So if I'm thinking if Abby's willing to bring her professional expertise to the table and Leslie's willing to participate in that's the path we should go down.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, what I meant, again, this was actually perfect, like you said. Taking whatever this form is that we have. Leslie, do we have the document that we used to use for Andrew somewhere in the
We have
computer?
it, yeah.
I figured
We
you
have it.
did, right? Obviously. So I think what Brooke just said is what similar to what I was trying to say, not as well, of course, is to take that document, maybe this year, we do something with that and then come up with something moving forward that is more refined for this process, unless we can do something sooner, I'm fine with that too. You know what I mean? With what Brooke is suggesting. So, I don't know.
Go ahead. Do you wanna let me take my?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask for Abby's feedback in terms of what's a reasonable timeline, if we go.
To give her that form.
Still double muted.
I mean, I think they're waiting for you. You might be
Yeah.
double muted.
Oh, we got baby in one hand, the double mute button in the other.
That,
Well,
people
Double secret
miles.
Yeah.
people
See, that
miles.
was right. We
That
all
was a
learned
new
math, there's
term,
no such thing.
people miles, today we heard that.
Triple muted.
Maybe while we're waiting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Abby,
Christina, did you have something?
Oh, go ahead.
before?
Rachel. I was just gonna say that I think that using Abby's expertise is the way to go. I don't have any, I mean, we're not human resource
Yeah.
experts. But I just think for me, the key is that the position wears so many different hats that you need collective information.
Yeah.
You know, as much as this commission might be the final say, I don't feel, as you said, that I'm confident in making those kind of decisions without feedback from others that are, in the different roles and responsibilities. So.
Go ahead, Leslie.
I like some of the things that Abby had to say, and I respect that she does this sort of thing in her day job, and I'm happy to work with her on something. I feel like as a group right now, we're getting kind of bogged down, and I the contract says I need to have a review. I'm fine with having a review, and I would like to work with Abby on something. And I think that the old form, even though it was used for years, every year, everyone complained about the old form.
I know,
And
that's why
Andrew
I
used the
said
form
that.
for me, and every year we complained about the form. So I think it's time for, the form to go by the wayside, or at least for now, maybe get simplified. So that we can at least move forward and maybe, as Gendy said, come up with a better process going forward.
A goal thing for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Abby, are you there?
I don't know who's.
You got CTP thugs.
I have.
I would
I
steer away from that, dude.
There's been like hackers that have been going.
Oh, no,
through the
no,
conservation
on the
meeting.
street.
Yeah.
Off this
Constantly.
meeting.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that one too.
That's my alias in case you asked.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's conservation. We have like 40 of those.
If they're
gonna try to get over on someone, they might wanna pick a different name.
Don't have to say
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, one would think you'd wanna keep like real name. All right, let's kind of focus. I would really like to find out from Abby, what are we talking about?
No, you didn't know.
I
I did say
know,
earlier that November works, so.
Yeah.
but I would
She said that.
kind of like to find out, what are we looking at for return time in this?
Yeah, you're
She
right.
knew it was for the next meeting.
She said she could do it for the next meeting.
Yeah.
which
All
is
right, so
fine.
she's confident we could do it for the next meeting. The question I have probably as well to help guide the process is, you want the form designed such. Do you want it highly generic so you can all interact on it? Do you want it, which I don't think serves a heck of a lot of good purpose at this point. I'm getting a sense some of you want to kind of really steer clear of the blessed thing altogether. So I just kind of, I'm trying to figure out where that resides at. Is that, go ahead.
I
You know what I'm saying?
I think what I'm proposing is that Leslie and Abby figure that out.
Okay,
What are the constituencies that Leslie would find value in hearing from
right.
to help her understand how she's doing in her job and what she's doing well and areas for improvement, right? That's what this process is about. So hearing from a commissioner who's been on for 4 months, probably not. Maybe it's a subset of commissioners who've been on for at least a year, or at least, but I trust the two of them to sort of figure out, because you know how this commission works, the turnover, all of it. You know what part of your job falls under our purview and what does not. What other feedback would be helpful beyond this commission, and you know better than anyone else. It should be driven by you, I hope. in my humble opinion. Or maybe not so humble.
Right. So.
Do you need a action on
I'm
that?
feeling like we probably should just to formalize it, but let me just be one thing clear too in the build of doing this. If someone has a burning passion to want to enter in to it, that wouldn't be part of that criteria. They should still be allowed in. Under which to
I'm
do.
not sure what you mean.
Okay, so can I pick on? John, how long have you been here for? That's about a year, right?
I knew it was gonna be me, but.
I've got it. All right, let me get on another coin. No, I'll get on a coin. Mike, here you go. I'll pick on Mike.
2 months?
There you go. It's not 2 months. But let's say you want to, I just want to make sure that if the criteria that we build says, oh, you have to have this length of time on it, that if you felt like you still wanted to do one, that option is available for you under which to do it. That's all. That would be my only thing.
So the things
I'm not asking for, I just wanted to pick on something.
yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, some of the things I heard around the table is there was lots of good things, so I don't want to repeat too much, but the commission being involved is the main thing. I agree with you. Anonymous is not a way to go.
Yeah.
And I think we're on the right program with Brooke and Abby.
All right. So I think what would be appropriate is, I think someone had said we should probably make a motion on it, and I'm gonna ask you to do that.
So I'm gonna move that the commission, empower Abby to work with Leslie to come up with a proposed structure for review to present to the commission at our next meeting.
Got it.
I will second that.
Is there discussion on the issue? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, oh, that's right. I have to.
Come on, Barry, wake up.
Oh, Bert, that's just so easy for you to sit there in that nice comfy chair, sit backwards and I'll be
You're
quiet.
sitting backwards, Barry. I'm just following your example.
There you go. Anyways. Roll call vote, John.
It is Kitchener, yeah, John Kitchener. Aye.
Would you like me to?
No, John's fine.
I'm got.
John's fine.
It's 7:00, people.
I know, really, Dave. Aye. Mike. Aye. Nat.
Aye.
Wendy.
Aye.
Welcome, Brooke.
Aye.
Christina.
Aye.
Bert.
Aye.
There we go. Joe. Abby, you there yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you in agreement? Did you catch everything we're doing and are you in agreement?
Yeah,
with it?
no, I heard Brooke make the motion. I'm in agreement. Aye.
Great. Thank you, Abby. I didn't realize you were gonna bring that level of expertise to things. I love it. In-house is good. So I'm excited.
Happy to help.
All right. So let's move on.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
may I have just a minute or so on a related topic before I lose the thought? It's related to something that you said that I think I should comment on.
Okay.
As a new person.
Yeah.
I would actually like some guidelines on how we can all as individuals interact with staff, because sometimes I feel like, oh, I really wish I could go and talk to Leslie about X or Megan about Y. And I always go through a thought process of, well, do I need to talk to Barry about that first, or do I need to talk to Dave as a final board first? Because, if we have a free access, that's all you need to say. But if we don't, I'd like to understand what the rules are.
All right. So instead of spending a lot of time on it, I'm gonna have you meet with Leslie to be able to understand what those rules of engagement are with staff, because they are very specific. And so I think that would probably be a slightly more productive use of time.
So then, for those of us that wanna know.
We
also
are.
wanna know.
List this one.
All right, so so a bunch of you wanna know, maybe you can keep it down to.
If I just email me and we'll set up a time.
Individually.
Yeah.
Or is it, I was gonna ask, is it written somewhere? Can you just email it to everybody or is it?
I mean, we have the bylaws, but it's just a formal informal conversation might be good for the newer people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an example and I'll start. So I've already set up this week some time with Megan and some time with my clients, because I do have a laundry list of things that I would like to talk about. And I thought, okay, well, if I do it this way, I'll set up somebody's going to tell me if that's not a good thing to do. And as no one has, well, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
So
I would jump in on that if it was a group thing. If not, I'll just do it individually.
yeah, I think that'll be helpful.
Yep, just send me an email and we'll go from there.
Beautiful. All right. Proposed enabling legislation review.
Okay, is ready for a new topic?
Yeah.
So Nat can say a whole new topic.
Tonight, new for tonight.
Not a new topic.
Okay. So I guess I'll start off with saying that there were 3 things on this agenda item in your packet that I hope everyone took some time to look at. The first one was the draft that should contain everything you talked about, which Nat told me that I somehow managed to leave off the land bank representatives. And I had a little checklist, so I must have deleted it by accident at some point. So we'll get that back in.
Yeah.
And then I'll talk about that more in a minute. The second thing is the enabling legislation as it's currently written, just for reference in case some of you haven't read it or looked at it in a while. And then the third thing is the memo that I first circulated months and months and months ago, and it's been updated over time. So the last update was October 21st, and that includes sort of the last pieces of information that you all decided on. So, yeah. So the draft legislation, you know, needs to be just like your existing legislation, a very broad view of what the commission is going to, you know, be able to work on and advise on going forward. So unlike the vision and the mission and the planning objectives that you all voted on, I mean, those are things that can change over time. Those are things that you can start implementing anytime you feel like it, as long as it's within your jurisdiction under your legislation. So the legislation as drafted is very broad. It doesn't include those specific items. You want your legislation to give you the authority to be able to act on those items later. So that's why they're not included. And I did send this to John Giorgio to review. He has not gotten back to me yet. So let's just consider this sort of a rough draft. And it will probably need, formatting type changes, refinement for legal issues, maybe some wording changes, but I think this is really like the bones of it. So in section 1, we're deleting section 1 of the existing legislation in its entirety and replacing it with this new language. So the language at the beginning does include language that you all talked about for your mission, I believe, and your vision. So that's been incorporated in here, and it incorporates, with the exception of the omitted land bank, all of the sectors and all of the boards and committees and commissions that you voted to include. There's probably going to be some language changes in here relative to the sectors. Megan and I kicked some language around internally to try to really get at the boards or committees that are nominating a representative that's not an actual member. So I'm thinking John Giorgio will have probably some ideas on how that should be worded, but the gist of it's in here. And also the transfer of the at-large members. The way you all decided to set it up was that after the first annual meeting of each board committee commission, when they nominated their person, the one who's existing comes off. So there's that. Section 2, delete your existing section in its entirety. And this is again incorporating language from, the vision mission that you all talked about, and really it's just an update of some existing language that's already in the legislation. Section 3, which is the funding source and payment of bills and that sort of thing. Deleting the current section in its entirety, replacing it with the same, or excuse me, not the same, replacing it with the following. Much of it remains the same. You're still allocated funding from the treasury of the town of Nantucket. This does broaden the existing language a little bit to include private contributions and federal funding and that sort of thing. And that's language that you all had talked about some time ago and voted on. Section 4, which may have gotten renumbered, but it stays the same. It's about electing a chair and vice chair and officers. Section 5, it was numbered differently in the other legislation, but that stays the same. The commission shall be one of the Commonwealth's regional planning agencies. Section 6 is something that we should probably delete at this point. Barry reminded me of some history on this section that's already in the existing legislation that I did not recall. And I didn't have any notes referencing deleting or keeping this section. So maybe Barry could elaborate on that. And then just real quick, section 7, which is remembered and stay the same.
Yeah. So section 6, the DREIP,
yeah,
was really a matter of, God, I forget how many years ago this was, but getting the town engaged in the process as well too. There was a partnership that needed to take place. And at some stage that failed along the way. The language was put in prior to that so that if the town did partner with us and it did pass through town meeting, that it could have been just adopted. But since it didn't pass muster at either of those levels, and this was several years ago, it's just been sitting on the books. So I would argue at this point that it is time for that to be eliminated from in here, because otherwise there is a very formalized process we need to go back through. But there is definitely not an appetite at that juncture to move ahead with it. So,
And
go ahead.
just add the development of regional economic impact permit, the DREIP. That would be the one regulatory component of your legislation. And really just looking over it with the scale of development that would have to take place. I'm not sure that there's any of that left or not much.
This came up there was stuff.
I remember.
Don't exactly remember what triggered this, okay? I think it might have been the Oceans Act 2008.
There was also
There was something else that I just don't remember. But I'm really glad Brooke's here because this is where we get into the town is really the town. We're not the vineyard. There's 6 planning boards and 6 boards of health and 6 ZBAs and 6 of everything except they have this big commission that has all kinds of power. This gets brought up every once in a while that we can do this, do that. Like, for example, Harbor Place is not even fit these numbers. And that's probably gonna be the biggest thing as far as like what we look at in the future from the planning board side of things and the HDC. But like, this doesn't even cover that. There isn't any, I think, I'm not gonna say it should be just taken out, but I looked, when I saw that, first thing I thought of is, does anyone even know what this is? Because I knew that this was gonna happen. I didn't know you were prepared to talk about it. I think, you know, Andrew would be able to explain where this started. I don't remember everything and what caused it. If there was something, I think it may have been that electric project between the Vineyard and Chappaquiddick. There was this, remember that wave thing? There was this underwater thing that they were gonna do, and we had this back and forth with the Vineyard. There was something that triggered this to get put on. I just can't remember what it was. But I don't think there's anything here that fits these numbers, and you know, we would have to tear down a lot of buildings and a lot of space to have this fit. But on the other side, I think that having, I don't know, some kind of discussion at another time about the impacts of certain things here. We've got you know, that stuff does come up. In select board conversations, it's come up with rentals, it's come up with traffic, it's come up, you know, with, you know, impact fees, all these things get sort of brought up sporadically. And I think that this is confusing for someone to read and it presents a problem. So that's my thought. Yeah, I'm done.
Question related, like, I would, if it was between the Vineyard and Nantucket, I'm just wondering what the regional, like the.
It was, I just don't remember everything, but I know there was a big relationship we had with
Another
that.
little
Right,
small.
but I
slice of-
think there was, I'm just gonna say there was more to it than that, though.
Yeah,
It wasn't just that
it
sole
was
thing.
something.
There was far more to it than that, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Step on the page.
This was kind of when you say Nantucket region, I wondered if we should say Nantucket Islands, you know, because of like Tuckernook and Muskeget, like if there was something that, I didn't know if that's where you were going, Nat.
I just thought of that in my conversation, but there might have been something that was proposed on the beach, on
Tower,
the
like
beaches
the
or something.
tower
That
landing
could have
from,
caused it.
It's interesting.
Very.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a couple of people who want to talk.
Oh, go ahead. I've got you here. Oh, do you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I just wanted to say that, one, if this has been enabled, then by the legislation, then it's, you were just saying that it was something that we didn't come to agreement with, and it's kind of null and void, but if it's in our enabling legislation, it's enabled.
That's.
Sorry,
I forgot to ask.
Go ahead, either you want to chime in or I want to
Can I just-
chime in because we need to correct
Let
that.
me just clarify that. So it's in the legislation, but in order to implement the section of the legislation, says the commission shall by majority vote adopt rules and regulations for the issuance of a DREIP after a public hearing, blah, 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 blah. And those rules and regulations shall not take effect except upon affirmative vote of the town meeting. So it was the town meeting that I think Barry is referencing as not approving the regulations.
They weren't, yeah.
I don't remember this at all. This would have been early on in my.
Yeah, it was important to put this whole language into play so that we could move ahead on a local level to be able to do this. But like I said, when it got to that local level, I don't know, it's kind of weird timing. But when it got to the local level, it failed. It failed on so many different levels, it wasn't even funny. So my gut reaction to you is that it's probably, this isn't serving a purpose anymore. As a matter of fact, I can't even find references online for it anymore.
So all I would say is that, you know, just because we don't know and we don't remember, I don't think things should be deleted out of enabling legislation, just wiped out, because.
But what are you gonna do with it? It's in there.
It wasn't enabled.
It's not fully enabled.
So
that's.
So I guess my question is if something met these criteria, like some big building wanted to be built, then the way I'm reading it, maybe this is just me and I'm not understanding it properly, is that that would trigger regional economic impact permit requirement from us that needs to be approved at the town meeting. So I mean, you said that it was the only regulatory part of our legislation. So if we do have some regulatory control, maybe we shouldn't throw it away, right?
But it's.
Excuse,
please.
and you guys can leave it in or not leave it in. I'm just letting you know, it hasn't been used, it hasn't been fully implemented, and I'm not sure, you know, if we even have projects that would trigger this, but that's what I wanted to answer was your question. Could we be using this now? So the answer to that is no, because I'm just going to read the section at 6B. The commission shall by majority vote adopt rules and regulations for the issuance of a DREIP after a public hearing with a minimum of 14 days prior notice to the select board of the town of Nantucket of the time and place of such hearing, provided however that the rules and regulations shall not take effect except upon affirmative vote of the town of Nantucket at a duly scheduled town meeting. So the rules and regulations shall include specific timelines for action by the commission, including without limitation that the commission shall file a written decision with the town clerk within 180 days of the commission's receipt of a complete application for the issuance of a DREIP and standards and criteria to assess visual and environmental impacts, employment characteristics, and requirements for municipal or regional services, including solid waste disposal, water, sewer, tourist services and facilities, transportation, and education. The rules and regulations shall provide that the commission shall issue a DREIP upon making the following findings, and it lists all those. So the rules and regulations have never been adopted. So therefore, no one can apply for a DREIP. Which means the commission can't consider one.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So, it seems to me we shouldn't throw it away. I can't imagine a project that we might want to do that having this process available is advantageous, right, in some way. I don't know, that the community really wants to do. But we want to have oversight over it, you know, like in our long-term planning, we might imagine something like a wave energy project off the coast or a desalinization plant or, you know, things that we can't even imagine needing in our lifetimes, that the community may well be happy for us to put a bunch of rules in place and make this happen. I don't know. Or maybe it's something that the community wants to stop. I don't know. It just seems like leave it fallow.
Yeah.
Until such time that we find a reason to use it and to take that step.
So just quick, let's try to follow up on what you said. If you read the stuff, it says, like, for example, let's say we were looking at this interior enclosed sports complex right now. Just Jim, using that as an example, because it's like the only thing I can think of that's big that we've talked about. But that says manufacturing industrial. It's not, it doesn't say activity, recreation. So the wording in these, not 1 through 4, it's like actually remove them from. The only one is the parking and that, but it's industrial and commercial parking for one project, I'm assuming. I don't think we have that either. So it's like, I think the fallow term that you use is actually good, just to leave this in, not saying leave it in. But this is a gigantic housekeeping issue, in my opinion, but I don't want to make that decision for everybody else. Maybe we just leave it alone, Leslie, and just to not create a stir with some other, you know, new problem that we create somehow. Because it's not gonna ever come to fruition, so.
Thank you. Just for my understanding, though, it's dead in the water, even if it did come up, because there's no enabling legislation that supports it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
There's no rules, no rules. Adopted by town
Yeah,
meeting.
through you, Mr. Chair, to Nat. If one of these projects came up that we can't yet imagine, why wouldn't our existing planning board and HDC organizations capture it, or whether it was
They would.
So
This is another layer.
But why?
Like a giant.
Because of
MCD.
whatever, we have to do some digging as to what caused this. I don't remember what caused this, but I think it had something to do with something on the beach. Some big proposal thing. Wasn't this something with erosion, Nantucket? I can't remember what it was. There was something that caused this. I just can't remember.
Yeah, the bottom line behind it, John, were you done? I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah, well, only that, with our current planning board and HCC, and then it's got to go to the town meeting anyway. I'm trying to figure out like what really is it doing here? Under any circumstances.
This was an added layer. It may have had something to do with the bag to market program. I don't know what it was.
I'm trying to get there.
It was something.
As opposed to conjecture, I'm really trying to get there with you at this point.
go ahead.
It really was a matter of being able to leverage additional funding to be able to get these things done and be able to do better reviews with it. But again, you hit the nail on the head as to what was another stopping point with this as well too. You've got all your local boards and commissions weighing in on these things anyways. So we'd just be another voice in the crowd doing this. But I don't think the ability to leverage those funds anymore are there and available. So it's just putting us in that position. But I'm not sure to what end purpose that now serves outside of having another board or commission weigh in on it.
But my last point, Mr. Chair, would be, as I read through all of this, you know, I became a convert to, it's got to be broad. And then I got to this, and it wasn't broad. You know, it's like very, very, very specific. So I kind of, with my, okay, I get it, it needs to be broad hat on. I just say, I don't get it, actually, I just don't get it. Why something this specific would still stay in. Thank you.
Yep. Right. I think so. I don't see anyone up on there at this point. So just in relation to this one thing about either it staying there or not staying there at this point, I think Leslie's got a good idea. So, yes for it to stay, no for it to leave. John?
Leave.
Okay. Dave?
Leave.
Mike? Leave. Nat?
Leave.
Wendy?
Stay.
Stay. Pearl?
Leave.
Okay. Christina?
Stay.
Okay. Bert?
Aye.
Oh, okay.
No, it's either stay or not stay. We're on a different program now, Bert. On the DREIP, would you want it to be left in as language or to be taken out?
Taken out, I think.
All right, taken out, thank you. Just wait a minute. Abby?
Removed.
Okay, Joe?
Remove.
Okay, Chair says to remove it as well too. Go
Can
ahead.
I ask a really stupid question? What did the word leave mean?
Remove.
Remove.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Are you, did that change anything?
Well, I didn't really understand it. I honestly thought
Leave it in.
it was
stay in.
leaving it in
Yeah.
Oh,
and not taking it out, and now I voted to
do you
take it
want,
out.
do you want me to recast the vote
I
with
think-
different language?
I hate
I
to
think
say
that's
it.
very-
I think we need to do that.
All right,
Barry.
so I'm gonna do it again.
Confused now.
So, option, okay, that's where you need to say, Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Well, I did.
That really is how you'll
Until
catch
the
my
word
attention.
stay came up. I'm like, okay, I thought
That,
that's what
that would
leave
have
meant.
definitely caught my attention if you did that. Point of order. All right, so we're gonna take the vote again at this point, is either to leave the language in there or remove the language. Are you all clear? Are you all clear now about what we're doing? That's okay. We do this just for sake of thoroughness at this point. John?
Remove the language.
Thank you. Dave?
But keep it to remove it, please.
You know, there's a.
Oh, what the heck was that? What was that, Dave?
Remove, all right.
Thank you, Mike.
Remove.
Now,
I'm gonna say remove now.
you're gonna say remove.
Yeah. After all
Flip
that.
Flop in there.
Go ahead, Wendy.
I'm
Keep it in.
being a John
Keep it
Kerry.
in. Nat, let me finish, please. Brooke,
Remove it.
remove it.
Keep it.
Christina? I'm
Keep
sorry.
it.
Keep it in. Bert,
Remove.
move. Joe,
Remove.
Abby,
Remove.
and the chair says remove as well. All right, thank you, everyone. Okay. So. I'll let Leslie finish up. She's doing. Very good. Good. All right, thank you, everyone. So really, Leslie, is it fair to say at this point, we are good to go with this sans final edit from town council, and you
Yes.
feel as though that'll be minimal?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay.
I
So-
don't expect major content changes, just legal language formatting type things.
All right. So go ahead.
And I move that we adopt the new enabling legislation pending legal review from town council.
And then there's gonna be.
Second.
All right, so, and what's the action once we adopt it? Because that'll be the other thing we're gonna need to consider as well too. By
Okay,
right,
let's start with this.
All right, so we'll take it in steps then. So motion is to adopt the now amended language to the acts of 1973 here for the commission. Are you all clear on what we're about to do? Don?
Yes, aye.
You'll Don, yes. Aye. Aye. Wendy?
Aye.
Brooke? Christina? Bert?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And Abby?
Aye.
The chair says aye as well today, but all right. So. Next stage. Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
hey,
Do we have to decide what process we're gonna use?
I think that should.
Okay, so our options are citizen warrant article, which is not required, correct?
That is not.
Which would make it a home rule petition,
No,
or,
It would be a home petition, if it's voted by town meeting.
yeah,
if it's a town meeting, but,
That's what she's telling me.
okay,
or we vote to send it to the legislature for adoption.
Yeah.
Those are our two choices.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more time, please. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
So we have the authority to send this straight to the legislature for adoption. So our representatives would craft a bill and the legislature would approve it directly without going to town meeting. We have the option to put this on as a as a warrant article, which I guess the planning board would do. I don't know who would do it.
No, it would be either submitted through the commission as a citizen
A
petition,
citizen petition.
or the commission could ask the select board to put it in.
To adopt, okay.
Thank you.
I feel good. And that would, that is not legally required.
Mhm.
But it's a matter of, should we ask the town meeting if they agree with us?
The other thing you could do with town meeting, I'm sorry, you're done.
I'm done.
All right, Abby's got her hand raised, so, but I want to come back to that. Abby, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I know we had talked about a previous meeting, even if we didn't go to town meeting, I do think we should make sure there's like a big effort to engage the community. So like, it wouldn't just be like, this is sent to the legislature, nobody knows about it. Like, I think there should be a plan of like how we would engage interactively with different groups on the island if we decide to go that path. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just follow Abby's thought process? Because I know we did talk about that, Abby, and then I would just add, I would further that by asking the question, if we have public engagement and really get the message out there and we get negative feedback, are we gonna do anything about it? Like, would we be back at this table discussing the enabling acting legislation, or is it just a matter of education?
There you go.
So
That's the catch.
let me,
I'm just asking the question, it's just something for people to think of.
all right, so let me give you my 2 cents then. Is that if you want to go to town meeting, you can always ask for a sense of the meeting. Doesn't allow things to be changed. It allows people to be able to. It's there, it's before you, this is what we're doing. And things just move ahead. It's all sense of that's all the sense of a town meeting does.
So there's a thing called a sense of a town
You can
meeting?
you can request to ask for a sense of the meeting.
And
So, Mr. Chair, if the sense of the meeting seems to be, we don't like this, we're still gonna say, well,
thank you.
Thank you for telling us that, but we're going ahead.
Right, and I think.
So, you know.
I'm just saying to you, there is a mechanism under which
Yeah.
you can do it at town meeting if you wanted to. That doesn't say that we couldn't roll this out as a series of public forums to the populace. If, I'm just gonna say right now to you, a hazard I see with putting into town meeting is that the entire scope of this could be changed in one moment.
Well,
And so-
I'm sorry, I butted in on your time. I'll
I just wanted to bring that point for people.
But that-
Related.
But the moment, yeah, but if you bring it to town meeting as a warrant article, you have opened it to be able to be interacted on by everyone and anyone.
So then my
So what you may start with and where you end up may be two very different creatures altogether. And so we're back at the drawing board.
Well, then, another question I have is, let's say it does get adopted though. So now we have a home rule petition adopted at that. And there's already one up there at the state from the trade board. So does that really work that we have two competing home rules at the state being considered? Or does that make us look like well, let me just stop. Is that something that can happen?
Go ahead, Leslie.
Do you want to go?
It only reaffirms our legislators' opinion of Nantucket.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which has been articulated quite clearly of late. I think the answer to the question is, I don't know how that would be perceived by the legislature.
Yeah.
Through the chair, which part? I'm sorry.
Second home rule.
I don't know whether a direct request from the commission would be viewed differently from a citizen warrant article that is now a petition. It's not a petition from the petitioner, it is a petition from town meeting. The home rule petition is from town meeting, from the voters of Nantucket. That's what's on, has been instructed to our legislators.
Yeah.
Right, so we would be, I don't know, I'd have to ask Julian how they would perceive
Because
it.
now we've got our voters then, same body with two home rule petitions.
Correct.
It's not even two different bodies. It's
I'm gonna go to Leslie, then I'll come to you.
So I have a couple of thoughts. I mean, when Article 83 was passed by town meeting and it was forwarded to the legislature as a home rule petition, there were a lot of people that had prepared remarks who went to the committee and testified. And at least at that time, the committee seemed very receptive to the fact that, the commission was working on changes to their enabling legislation. And that they seemed like they wanted to give the commission an opportunity to present their own version. So I would hope that if the commission wants to go the route of asking one of our legislators to sponsor it, that the legislature and the committees that have to review it would be very responsive to that. Through the MAPC, which is sort of the head regional planning agency through MARPA, because they're in Boston, they have a huge staff. They provide legislative services to MARPA. And I've spoken with them about this whole process. And they said that they would be very willing to assist the commission with shepherding this through if the commission wants to go that route. The other thing to keep in mind, I think, is that getting the enabling legislation advanced could be done faster via that route. We wouldn't have to wait for town meeting to happen in May and then possible amendments. And then the third point I wanted to make was, sense of the meeting idea. I think the commission is either in or they're out, either it's going to town meeting or it's not. And I think a lot of times with the sense of the meeting, regardless of what the subject matter is, people don't give it as much attention as they might otherwise because it doesn't matter, quote unquote. So I think those are all things to think about. And with the community engagement, back to, I think, what Christina asked, you may be voting on it tonight and voting to move forward, but if we do proceed with a lot of community engagement and get feedback that you want to consider and maybe reconsider how it's written, when you can do that, like the legislation can be changed, doesn't have to move forward exactly the way it's written. So there's options.
Abby, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Wendy, go ahead and I'll come to Abby. Sorry.
I'll just, my hand was up to say very much the same thing. I feel strongly that we should just move forward and we've dragged our feet and I think the public and the legislature expects this to
Mhm.
from us.
Let me go to Abby. Yeah, that's okay. Abby?
I was just gonna say, I actually asked this question to one of our legislators, and my understanding is if we were to send our legislation forward, they would still want to engage the other legislation. So they would still want to make sure that they talk to the different parties. So I don't think it would be kind of, John, how you were like, oh, it's two competing things. I think they would still try to get some level of collaboration and compromise, was my understanding. So I wouldn't feel like if we send it to the legislators that then it's just oh, we can't change it, as Leslie pointed out, or that we can't do anything to it. I think that it would still very much be a breathing process. So I wouldn't be as concerned with that. Just my thought.
But I do want to circle back, John. Don't submit home rule petitions. That is.
No,
No. I'm just saying, no, just bear with me. I'm just saying in general. The state views us as the major component in home rule petitions. We are not viewed well by the state in terms of how many home rule petitions come out in Nantucket. It actually is somewhat to our detriment.
Mr. Chair, I'm a.
God bless you. I'm not saying you would either. But up in Beacon Hill, that is a very real thing to consider at this point. Yeah.
Two home rule petitions have been sent, and this commission has committed to doing this process because we believe that the outcome is crafted well with the right input, with the right, structure. And so I stand behind what we've just agreed to, what we have agreed to, what we've crafted. So I stand behind what we've crafted as the best version of how we should be able to do our work. And so I would support a direct send to our legislators. And we have one brand new one who's not even there yet. So we will soon. So yeah, I would propose that as
a motion.
Yeah, actually.
Okay,
yeah.
So just kind of.
I know.
Christina.
But let me just be clear about what we're doing. Do I have a second to that?
Second for discussion.
Second for discussion, Christina.
So, yeah, so my discussion, I guess, through the chair to you, Brooke, do you mean just send it and have no public outreach?
No, but the process begins by sending it up. And then we educate the community on where it's headed.
Yeah.
Because through the legislative process, it will go through hearings and so forth. And so.
I just feel, I'll just say it straight up. I feel really, really uncomfortable about that. I feel that we were at the town meeting and there is a sense that we don't listen to anybody. And, that's kind of like the general, we've had this conversation. By sending it and then talking to the public, we just basically said, well, we're just gonna tell you what we did. And I feel that we should, public outreach is for public outreach, is to hear what the public has to say. And to have their input. If you're not gonna listen to them at all, then you might as well just print it in the paper and say, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
That's just my personal opinion. Yeah.
Can I respond to that? I know it's a motion with a second for discussion. So
it's up for discussion.
I knew that was gonna happen. So town council, form of government. Okay. Everybody understands, well, let's just say generally, most people, that live here understand that this is going to change the select board to something else that's gonna make you into a different entity with either 7 or 9, right? And town meeting disappears. Okay, something of that magnitude with that much control, say, rules, power is gonna get the full Monty of review, right? The planning commission, now you saw up on the screen tonight, all these different people, Christina, like, where are they at? They're in either their house or somewhere that they work out of, somewhere on their computer. This, what Leslie said is exactly right. It's a sense of this agency is different than the land bank in the sense of like the land bank was created, but the state isn't like on your meetings every month going, hey, what's going on over here? Stuff like that. This agency, even though we're not regulatory, which we're not, is as Frank Spriggs said to me so many times, a seat at the state's table in things that you can't even explain to anyone. Like, I have a hard time explaining what the planning commission does, and I've been here for 20 years. Like, it's scary, or 19 years, or whatever it is. So I want, part of me says outreach is the greatest thing in the world, but it will create more confusion of what are they doing, what are we doing? I feel personally that the work that we've done is so good and so vetted, and some of it is in the other article, a lot of it, okay? That, to me, this is so well done and so refined that I don't see any issue with it, regardless of how we send it with, you know, outreach or not, or whatever, because it isn't haphazard, okay? So I just don't see an issue with it, doing it that way. Like, it was something that really affected, like, zoning can be passed by 9 people with town council. Like, to me, that's a big deal. If I didn't understand what was going on, I would be like, I don't want that. You know what I mean? You following what I'm saying? Anyway, so, sorry, John.
No, I think I'm enjoying it.
You got your Zoom hand up, go ahead.
Yeah, I do. So,
John, go ahead.
no, because I'd like to just weigh in on what is public outreach. I don't mean we put this all out on the table again. What I mean is we start with a well-crafted piece that says, look what we've done. We're not saying, this is what we've done. We've gone from this number of members to this number. These kinds of people are on now that we're not on. And put out a very easy to understand how far this body has moved from what we currently have to what's going. That clarity of that document or piece of work, that's the important thing to me. And that's, you know, I would say that needs to go out almost when this envelope goes to the state, that envelope goes to the current and Inky and everywhere else, so that nobody gets a chance to say, see, they've done it again. No, you know what, so maybe it needs to go, that document needs to go out to the press a couple of days ahead. It's not a.
Dave. I mean, I agree with John. I think the problem is, and we've seen it at a town meeting, that we can educate and we can speak to the reality and the facts of the commission, but there's members of our community that don't want to hear it and don't understand it and just don't want to believe what we're talking about, and it creates this toxic atmosphere, unfortunately. And I think that if we brought this to town meeting, we would be throwing this into the cauldron of hate and misinformation. And I think even though there is some concern about and I hear your concern, but I think that if we educate and we say, this is where we are, this is why we've done this. I think that that's our best approach, because I think that there's too much. It's too easy to poison the well with misinformation, and a lot of people just don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear it.
It's red meat.
I just want to kind of chime in on that, and I agree with you, Dave. That is a major problem that you all need to be aware of at this point. You know, to what?
We had the motion in a second, right?
We're in discussion
Yeah.
phase, though. We're in discussion phase.
Mike had his hand up.
I just had.
So let me,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, that's okay, let me just kind of finish up where I started with, okay? You know, suggest that we haven't listened, that changes haven't been made, I would respectfully disagree with that. I mean, I can bring you 3 right now. The number of planning board members was reduced to 3. The cultural council, which was on there, is now gone. The CLG is now taking its place at this point. Whereas we were doing our own appointments, the county commissioners are now the appointing authority for the at-large. So I think we have heard and we've responded and changed things over time. Maybe not to everything, but I think to a broad range of things, I'd probably say yes. So that to me is being responsive. I'd probably just say though, before we just start moving ahead with all this and getting it out in a whole bunch of different ways, you may just want to wait until there's at least a first read of this to see if the state is going to recommend any changes to it. I just think there's a very deliberate process under which to do it. And so what I'm saying to you is it would be great to get it out there, but I think a little prudence of just making sure that everything looks appropriate before we do that would probably be the best
Well,
way.
if you're asking me, Barry,
I'm commenting, I'm not asking.
Because, I mean, I have a different view of, because if we have that big gap, that's where it gets filled in with all the negativity and everything else.
I would respectfully say it's going to get filled in no matter what.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I heard some criticism at town meeting that you weren't fast enough getting to this point, so, my question is if you send it and you put it out for public outreach, did I hear that you can still make, I'm not suggesting that you make changes, I think the work is done, but like, there's living documents that changes happen along the way, so I'm just wondering if it can move along, you do the public outreach, and you still have the ability to make a change if it becomes necessary.
I don't know that answer.
I mean, legislation's changed all the time throughout the process, so if the commission wanted to make a change, you would need to vote on that, and then you would need to, I think, reach out to the legislator and file the bill for you to see if he would advance those changes.
Yeah.
To make that super simple.
I want to answer Christina's first question when she asked me about outreach versus sending it. I think we're not looking for input. We're looking to explain how this commission arrived at this process and why we made the decisions we made relative to some degree, perhaps relative to the home rule petitions that have gone up. So I would say the 2 things can happen simultaneously, but first of all, once you file it, it's a legislation, it's a very public process. So the idea that we're going to send it up there and wait for some feedback, I think is an error. If we're going to communicate the why and how of how we got there, we should do it immediately upon the decision to send it up. And so I think it is about announcing that we have done that, and maybe an opportunity for people to ask questions. But to say that this is final and it's going in this form and why, a little bit of why. To get ahead of that, people fill in the why if we don't explain it.
Is there anything else? All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Hopefully you're all clear on what the motion is at this point, which is to send it to the legislators up in Boston and start the process. Town council needs to take a quick, go ahead.
Can I just amend my motion and simultaneously educate the community about the process and the why of our proposal?
I'll resecond that.
Thank you.
All right, so that motion's now made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none.
Just for clarification,
Yeah.
and I guess who and how are we gonna define what that public outreach looks like? I mean, is that gonna be a staff recommendation or that like whose expertise is that?
Jenny Garner.
You guys might all kill me for this suggestion, but I think we should somehow publicly get it out there and have it as an agenda item on a meeting.
I think that personally, I just think that I hear what you all are saying and I agree with your logic. I just think that we really need to dot our i's and cross our t's and do the public outreach. It's not gonna hurt. If we're thinking we're not gonna change anything, at least if we have a public meeting and nobody shows up, we can at least say we had it, you know, it's on the agenda item, it's on, if we put the facts out there, then if anybody asks me, I can say, see, we did this, see, we did that, see, we did that.
And can I just
Hold on. Dave and then Wendy.
mark my words on this, we are gonna do this, we're gonna have an agenda item. And no one will show up, and 3 weeks later, there'll be a letter in the paper saying that we're dirtbags.
Yeah,
Guarantee you.
that's the cat.
That's how it works.
I get it, but just
No,
because.
I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying that that's what's gonna happen, yeah.
I understand, but
Yeah.
at least we did the right thing. Two wrongs don't make a right.
First
guys.
1918. That's all.
Wendy?
My feeling is that we really did have a lot of public input on, so many meetings, we heard from, the other side, we worked very extensively, we modified a lot. So I don't see the need to do an agenda item again, we've had this, Zoom capability for 2 years, so I really feel like that's been well expressed, and I hear you, Christina, wanting like more specifics on the outreach, but I think working with the media, submitting it, all those things, I feel is very public, so I feel good about that.
Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with what Wendy just said. This has been a long process and a, fruitful one, but at the same time, right now we've got one person in attendance, and on YouTube we have 4. I agree with Dave, no matter what we do, we're going to be thrown to the wolves. But I, at town meeting, I was going to get up and speak and say how this board is being restructured, I think, in the best way possible. And I think it really is going to, move forward and help the town grow and be organized and help, create a positive path and planning. And I really think that's important. And I think that's what we said we were going to do. I think we had a couple little things we had to address that kind of got in front of this. But I think we're doing the right thing. I do agree with Christina. Don't forget Thursday morning, Inky's going to be out with a article on this. So I don't know if someone could draft a letter to have op-ed piece in there or something to kind of give our reasoning for doing this. But I think we need to definitely go out to the public in all shapes and forms and kind of describe this. But at the same time, we're on Zoom. Everyone can watch this, but right now no one's here, and that's kind of a sad thing. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're back to what the motion is at this point, which is to make sure we send this to the legislators up in Boston for the next stopping point on this thing, and that is all that is on the table at the moment.
Actually, with
I'm
an
sorry,
effort
with-
to educate the community about process and the why.
All right, and maybe that's something we can. What? Now I'm totally
Town
confused.
council
You-
wasn't, we were waiting for.
Oh, yeah, we have to, and review by town council. Yeah.
All right,
absolutely, yeah.
So, sent to the legislatures, reviewed by town council, and some type of public outreach in the process. Okay, not defined at the moment. Are you all clear on the motion now? John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And Matt?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Bert?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Abby?
Aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you, everyone. That's been two plus
Congratulations.
years worth of work. Now moving along, yeah.
Yes.
So, with a lot of things underneath it. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Sorry. Are there any committee reports? Everything's listed here.
I have a
So,
brief one.
yeah, please go.
Rural Policy Advisory Commission. I haven't chimed in for a while. We didn't meet in October. We have a meeting November 8th. I did want to say that the one piece of action was that Linda Dunleavy at FERCog drafted an efficiency and regionalization grant application with 2 goals to update the rural policy plan from 2019. We haven't had really staff to do that, and now there is a director at rural policy. And also to create a communication structure with rural municipalities, because there's recognition that there's not enough communication, so they're really working to do that. Along that line, thinking of you, Nat, I reached out to Linda Dunleavy because she's going to be retiring in early 2026. And I know how valuable you felt her visit was a few years ago. And
Is that the Franklin?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's where she chairs the Rural
She was
Policy Advisory Commission.
unbelievable.
I know, so I knew. And so I reached out to see, just to get that in motion to hopefully have another visit in the future. I had one other comment, which is with the Retailers Association of Massachusetts. I'm on that executive committee, and I just thought I'd mention that representatives from there will be on island tomorrow at the chamber. It's of interest to small business to learn about their programs. I've saved a lot of money with them over the years, so I just wanted, in case anyone's tuning in from restaurant and retail, that's an effective thing. Those are my 2 little things.
Can I add something to Wendy's report that has to do with rural? I'm part of a panel that's meeting on November 12th here in this room, I think, with the Director of Rural Affairs.
Oh, great.
Yes. So if anyone has any topics you want me to bring up, I don't know what those would be, but let me know, or we can chat between now and then.
I wanted to add one thing related to our earlier conversation. With Megan joining the seasonal communities, I'd always understood that it was supposed to be a commission member that was appointed to one of these things, but going forward, I would be absolutely, after meeting, like it might really be better to have a staff person be part of it. And just I wanted to throw that out there, that it might be along the line of the communication, really valuable to have someone just in the office.
I believe for that particular committee, prior to you being a representative, we had someone who was not on the commission.
I don't think it
disinterested.
existed. I don't
Maybe I'm
think so.
thinking of something else.
Yeah, I think that was when it was invented.
Okay, so I'm thinking of a different group.
I think so. I mean.
Okay, you also?
Yeah.
Was there any other committee reports? Statewide housing plan? Something wanted to.
Well, I just wanted to let the commission know that Megan Trudell and Christy Ferrantella and I attended a listening session that was provided by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities about the statewide housing plan. It was provided to MARPA, so that's why we were invited. The presentation is in your packet, and basically the statewide housing plan is currently very much under development. And in the back of the presentation, there's a link where you can go online and fill out a survey about what's important to you as part of your community. So I would encourage you all to go on and do that, and forward the survey around to anyone can fill it out. All right.
So there's a reminder on here too. You all hopefully received a copy of the town area plan. That is coming up on our next meeting in November. If you have any comments on it, staff has asked you to please get back to them by the 15th. I'd probably say you may want to do that a little sooner than the 15th. So they have some time to digest that information and maybe circle back with you. But that is homework that you'll need to wind up doing. And then the master plan update is scheduled for November 6th at the select board meeting. Is there anything you want to bring up about that?
Well, the select board and town manager asked to have an update of the master plan with staff and with our consultant Judy Barrett. We are posting it as a joint planning board, select board meeting. That way members of the planning board can come and comment. And if we need to post it as a commission meeting, we can, but.
Probably just should, just to be on the safe side.
All right, so we will do that.
And I
as
would
well.
I would have potential questions, potential answers to potential questions, like build out, all these kind of things that may come up.
We may not have answers. to
I know,
that.
I'm just fair warning. Because this is something that gets mixed in between other plans, so.
Right, and
Anyway.
since you brought up build out, I'll just announce that I have a meeting scheduled with the consultants, Weston and Sampson.
Yeah.
I don't see it on my calendar, but it's in the next couple of weeks.
They're
go
still
over-
working on it, that's good.
Yeah, they're still working on it. They had to regroup it for the unsewered areas, not the sewered areas. So anyway, that's in progress and they are working on it. It has not stalled. It just hasn't needed to come back to the commission.
On the topic,
A new one,
what?
a new topic.
If it's not there.
Just a very short.
Things are on the agenda.
No sidewalk in Monomoy.
Come on,
No.
let them finish, please.
No.
The hour's getting late. Plenty of room, okay.
I would, so all the conversation about wonderful enabling legislation. But the thing is, what matters to those people we're talking about outreach is, so what comes next? What are you guys gonna do now then? You've got the new structure. You've got the legislation you need. So what are you gonna do for us then? And I think that, we need to start to answer that for ourselves. What are we gonna do to help move along some of the big issues that we have? And I put some thoughts together only to be a thought starter for an agenda item next meeting that talks about what comes next for us, what comes next in terms of specific actions and so on. I did put together a suggestion, and if that could be circulated well ahead of time instead of, so that people have time to take a look at it. That would be my request, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And we'll take that under advisement. Thank you. Anyone else? How about a motion to?
Motion to adjourn?
All those in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, I have to do. God help me at this point. Sure. But you're right, John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Aye, Nat, Wendy, Brooke.
Oh, yeah, I
Just say aye. Thank you, Christina.
Aye.
Just Joe.
Aye.
Bert.
Didn't
Just say. I think Abby's already left. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the hard work you did too.
Have a safe ride home.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Morning, everybody.
It's
nice to see that come through before we start.
Dinner somewhere. My wife couldn't make it.
A long road.
Long road.
John, I love that. It's like having Whitey Willauer in a white paper. Did you ever run minutes with him?
Yes.
Always had white papers. It was like, just